Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Meiman, get a ghost rider at the beginning. Chapter 81. Help, help. In a deep pit, two gaming youths who coveted the beauty of an elf girl fell into the pit and could not get out. Probably because Goblin didn't have the thinking ability of a normal person, he dug the pit so big and deep that it was more than 10 meters high. Therefore, the two young gamers broke several bones as soon as they fell. What's even worse is that the pothole is too deep, causing the signal to be a bit poor, and the intercom cannot be heard clearly. The two people can only lie on the ground in pain and moan. Tisk, isn't this my teammate? Just now he ran to chase the woman with a look of excitement on his face. Why are he lying here now? When the two heard a familiar voice above them, they immediately raised their hopes. When they looked up, they saw that it was indeed their teammate, Carmela. Carmela, help us up. Wait, I don't have a rope. I will come to rescue you later. Wait, don't leave. Hey, don't go. You bitcha, are you taking revenge on us? No matter how much you scolded, it was useless, the person just left. Just as the two of them were cursing, Carmela on the ground showed a weird smile. Help, on the ground, an elf girl was running away quickly, and behind her were two young men in camouflage uniforms who were hooked again. We will surround you from both sides. There is a shortcut over there. You can go through there. One of the big black men said to his teammates that there was a short road just in front of them. They had played several games here and were very familiar with it. Okay, I caught her, remember to wait for me, hee. After his teammates left, Lao He immediately threw down his body armor and rifle. As soon as the load was lightened, he was able to walk quickly. Haha, idiot, who can share such a beautiful girl with you? I was a sprint champion when I was in school. He excitedly caught up with the elf girl, lifted her on his shoulders, looked around, his eyes lit up, and he ran into an abandoned cave. Since this is an abandoned mine, there are many holes that were dug in the early days, which are good places to do things. Yeah, let me go, you briquette. The elf girl kept struggling. The more he saw the other party struggling, the more excited the big black man became. He took off the other party's pants in a few times, and then took a closer look. Waltthak, what the hell, bigger than me. The big black man looked at the elf girl's body with a shocked face. She looked soft, waxy, and incredibly beautiful, but when his pants fell down, the second brother underneath him was even bigger than him. The big black man had a confused look on his face. His orientation had always been normal, but the elf girl in front of him was so beautiful. Finally, the big black man made a decision with a ferocious look on his face and took off his pants. Bah, you really know how to play and bend people's orientation. Roger covered his face and stood behind the big black man, looking at his projection clone with a ghostly expression. Don't look at me with that expression. Don't forget that I am you. Hee, I am only as bad as you are. If I were a step too late, you wouldn't really play poker with him, would you? How is that possible? Don't forget that I'm still a junior version of the projection spell. You haven't mastered the advanced projection you learned from old Loki yet. Roger scratched his head. Yes, only the advanced version of projection can do it. It is a super magic that can make blood and bones exactly the same as real people. It can last for a long time without disappearing, making Thanos unable to tell the difference. Okay, Goblin has dug a few more holes. You go to work quickly, I'm going to do it. After taking away the firearms and weapons from the big black man, Roger took a character skin and put it on. Black skin is not expensive, very cheap. A man who looked exactly like the big black man who was knocked unconscious on the ground appeared with a weird smile on his face. Hey, Junior, where is that beautiful woman? Why haven't I seen you for so long? The person standing in front of Roger questioning was the big black teammate just now. He waited for a long time but didn't see the girl. Nothing, he was killed after I slept. Ah, you're going too far. We agreed to play together, you fool. Huh, Roger looked murderous. You dare to question me, you are seeking death. Blah blah blah. Roger took out his gun and fired several shots at the opponent. The young man in camouflage clothes lay in a pool of blood. I don't know how to flatter you, After Roger left, the other party slowly got up and looked at the direction Roger was leaving with a look of resentment. Idiot, did you forget that I'm wearing a bulletproof vest? After Roger walked out a short distance, he changed his vest again, and it was the man who had been shot several times by him just now. Bah, blah blah blah, killing like crazy. Carmela really didn't understand what was going on. Ever since she separated from her two pig teammates, gunshots kept coming from the forest. It was originally thought that they were hunting the smugglers who were sold as prey, but it turned out that they were all killing each other. Are you crazy? Even if you ask the other person, he can't tell you. He just shot him when he saw him and almost killed himself. Crazy, so crazy, what's going on? Is there a devil? Just when Carmela was about to escape home, two men in camouflage uniforms supporting each other came over and picked up their guns the moment they saw her. She took a closer look and saw that they were her two pig teammates who ran after the woman. Don't shoot, it's me. The one I'm beating is you, you fool. Not only did you refuse to save us, you also added insult to injury. Bah, bah. Carmela hurriedly rolled to the ground and avoided the attacks of her two pig teammates, but she had almost used up all her bullets in the gunfight. The opponent's firepower was obviously sufficient, so Carmela had to run and hide. The last one accidentally fell into a deep pit. What? She fell into the dug hole from a height of more than 10 meters, and was both dead and partially disabled. But luckily she encountered two soft cushions, which allowed her to land safely. But her luck was other people's misfortune. Two unlucky guys were lying down counting stars when she threw them and killed them. One had his throat accidentally smashed by the gun on her back, and the other had several ribs crushed by her. The broken ribs seemed to have penetrated into his lungs, and he was vomiting blood. Is it you? Aren't you chasing me up there? I understand, the two above are fake. She understood, the ones outside are all fake. No wonder so many people are killing each other, but the two unlucky guys are speechless. They are letting out more air than taking in. But how to get up there? Looking at the cave entrance that is more than 10 meters high. She pondered for a long time, but still couldn't think of a way. Early the next morning, the sound of popcorn that had been ringing in the middle of the night finally stopped, and it was daybreak. Carmela climbed in the cave with a sullen look on her face. They were a group of young gamers who never thought that something unexpected would happen, so they basically didn't prepare any ropes or knives. Carmela had no choice but to use the barrel of a gun to dig small holes in the wall and climb up with all her strength, but digging was not easy, especially since the soil was so hard. Then when I hang it on the wall, I have to dig with one hand to move it up, which is completely useless. After a while, she gave up. Just when she gave up, she suddenly heard someone humming from above. Regardless of whether he was a good person or not, he immediately asked for help. Hey, is there anyone? Help, someone fell in the hole here. After she shouted a few words, there were footsteps walking towards the entrance of the cave. After a while, an extremely handsome face appeared in front of the entrance of the cave. Wait a moment, I will rescue you immediately. After a while, a rope was dropped directly. Carmela was overjoyed, grabbed the rope and began to climb up. Finally, when she was about to exit the cave, a hand pulled her up. Thank you so much. Before he finished speaking, he was stunned by the other party's appearance. Although he was wearing shabby clothes, Lizzie's appearance was not just for boasting, and he immediately made the other party feel dizzy. You're welcome, let's go. I found a few people ahead. They fell into the same pit as you. I really don't know why so many pits suddenly appeared. Bah. The next second, Lizzie covered his chest and looked at the other party in surprise, because the woman in front of him was the same type as the Black Widow, and directly shot the savior to death. After kicking Little Plum into the hole, Carmela walked forward with a cold face, showing no guilt at all for killing the person who had just saved her. Halfway through, she heard a faint call. Carmela followed the sound to check, and when she came to another deep hole, she saw that two more unlucky people had fallen into the pit. Well, it's you two. Ah, it's Carmela. That's great. You saved us. I don't know what happened last night. We fell into this hole halfway. There was no such a deep hole here before. It's really unlucky. What stood before her were two young men in camouflage uniforms. They were also one of the two people she had killed during the shootout last night, but now they seemed not to remember them at all. It would have been terrifying for anyone else. The person who died in front of him last night was alive and well at the moment, asking for help like a normal person, but Carmela was different. He took out his pistol with a few bullets left, pointed it at his teammates who were companions the night before, and shot him twice. The two of them just stared at Carmela, unable to figure out why the other party wanted to kill them, even though they were still talking and laughing together last night. After Carmela walked away, two figures appeared from behind, the elf girl and Roger. How cruel, even Xiao Lizzie is not spared, and there is a woman that Xiao Lizzie can't deal with. Is this person really a woman? The elf girl murmured to herself. Okay, you can disappear and stop stealing my lines. Roger rolled his eyes and immediately lifted the spell. HMPH, burning the bridge across the river, the elf girl slowly disappeared into the air. Roger looked at Carmela, who was gradually walking away, and murmured to himself, is this person really a woman? He even killed Xiao Lizzie to be cruel. As Carmela walked, she discovered several corpses in camouflage uniforms. They belonged to a group of young men who were eating chickens. Something strange happened last night, causing a group of people to kill each other. She no longer wanted to find out the reason. Now she just wants to leave here quickly, go back to her villa, take a bath and sleep, and vent her anger at the same time. When they arrived at the gathering place before their departure, their car was parked there. When Carmela ran to her car with a face of joy, tragedy happened again. Puff, a depression, and she fell into a deep pit again. Where did this pit come from? She simply doubted her life. Fake, help, is there someone here to save me? Carmela yelled loudly, but it was a pity that no one came to save her this time. She desperately thought about who would happen to pass by this ghost place. As long as there is no water for 2 or 3 days, he will die in this hole. If she knows who dug this, she will definitely kill him. Hello, do you need help? Just when she was desperate, a black charcoal head stuck out from the ground. If I need it, please save me. After you save me, I will repay you well. I can give you any amount of money you want. Carmela said happily, there is really no limit to the road. No, you have a gun. What if you come up later and regret not giving me the money and give me a shot? Haydn shook his head. My gun is out of bullets. I don't believe it unless you throw up the gun. He took a deep breath, and when he went up to fight, Carmela was confident of killing him, so he threw the only pistol he had on him up. After the other party got the gun, he actually looked at it and said, you must have other weapons hidden on your body. Take off your clothes and throw them up, and I will rescue you. You are playing tricks on me. You don't even want to save me. Carmela gritted her teeth. No, I just want to see your big apple, Haydn too said righteously. Carmela glared angrily. If her eyes could turn into knives to kill someone at this moment, the other person would definitely be cut into pieces by her. After a while, Carmela suddenly changed her expression, smiled charmingly, and then slowly unbuttoned her top. Then he took off his camouflage uniform little by little, revealing his devilishly proud breasts. Babble. Black carbon had violated Newton's coffin board and sucked back his saliva. Are all the bad women these days so well developed? Save me out. Whatever you want, I'll do whatever you want, the other party smiled charmingly at Hey Tantu. No, I just want to look at the apples. Carmela was stunned for a moment, then smiled shyly at Haitu, took off the last covering of her upper body, and then threw it out of the hole. Not only that, she also took the initiative to take off her trousers. Do you think this is okay, baby? Yeah, okay, it's really good, Hey Tantu nodded. Then hurry up and rescue me. As long as you go up, they will do whatever you want, Carmela smiled with difficulty. With her charming face and devilish figure, she was full of infinite temptation. Hey, I seem to have said that I only wanted to see the red apple, but I didn't say to save you. Did you hear it wrong? Black Tantu looked surprised. You guy, scumbag. Carmela was stunned, she had never seen such a shameless person. Hey, how do you know my nickname? Well, I'm leaving. Although you have done many evil things, God has a good life. The black charcoal head waved his hand, your life or death is decided by God. If there is someone who saves you in this place where birds don't shit, then it can only be said that it is really God's arrangement. I'm leaving, bye, come back, you scum. There were constant insults coming from the pit, but Haydn too turned a blind eye. He dug directly on the camouflage uniform and took out a car key. It was true that he wanted the car key. Looking at Naoko was not the purpose. It was just that the elf girl suspected the other party's gender and wanted to confirm it. Well, although the white-flowered Noko is indeed attractive. But that woman was so violent that if she had been a man, she would have been sent to see God with a single shot. After all, he could not do anything to the beautiful woman and handed her over to God for execution. This place is in the wilderness. Without water, I might die of thirst in 2 days. As for the group of people who came to work, he saved their lives because of this. Without him, they were destined to die here. So Roger didn't feel guilty about imposing the death penalty on this beautiful female villain. Humph, music. Roger got on the other party's SUV, took out a stereo from the storage space, and played a piece of music, Hotel California. Driving on a dark desert road. The cool breeze blows through my hair. The aroma of tobacco, diffuse in the air. Look up and look into the distance. But you can never leave. Driving the car, I felt extremely comfortable on the deserted road, listening to music, and taking out a bottle of wine from the storage space to drink it, so comfortable. After driving for several hours, when we were about to arrive in New York, we found a police officer checking for drunk driving in front of us. It's too late. What to do? Roger rolled his eyes and found a way. A policeman with a big beard and a big belly saw Roger's car and stopped before they approached. He signaled to his companions and then walked over with his gun in his hand. Dong dong, the pot-bellied policeman knocked on the car window with his hand, indicating to Roger to roll down the window. Hello officer, what's the matter? After rolling down the window, he saw a man and a woman. The police immediately lowered their vigilance by half. It is not true that women commit crimes, but they are very rare. Most shootings happen to men. Hello, madam, please get out of the car and cooperate with the inspection. After the two people got out of the car and tested their alcohol as required, the police asked the female driver to show her driver's license. Roger blinked, thought to himself, then fainted and took out a driver's license temporarily conjured using advanced projection magic from his pocket. The female driver on the side was of course a temporary projection spell he had conjured up. He was becoming more and more fond of this skill now. The driver's license has also been changed, and it is exactly the same as the real one. Of course, there is no way to help with the information above, because it is not clear. If the police call the main station to ask, they will definitely find that it is fake. But obviously the other party didn't bother to ask. White people and Asians don't have that much crime rate. They just checked to see if there was any hemp in the car and then let him go. Oh, from now on we will have a nanny when we go out. Roger said with emotion that from now on when he goes to a bar to drink, he no longer has to see the police taking detours at night, and he transforms into a projected clone every minute and acts as the driver. I wonder if old Loki would regret his original decision if he knew that his special skills were used by Roger in this way. However, spells are not that easy to learn. Even if he gives them to Thor, Thor may not necessarily learn them. The more advanced the spell, the higher the talent required. Roger has been learning it for so long, but it is still just a basic level, like an advanced version, which can directly deceive Thanos' physical projection clone. He is still confused now. Not only do the hair, blood, and bones have to be copied the same, but even some trace elements, such as breath, taste, and heartbeat, must be copied to be the same as a real person. This is difficult. Also, the physical clone of old Loki can attack, which means that it has some of the strength of the original body, and can be seen as a real person, and there will be a corpse after death. As always, after returning to his hometown, he immediately went to a familiar restaurant to have a feast. You must know that from the time he got in the car to now, Roger had eaten nothing for nearly a day and a night. I just drank a bottle of water and decided to eat something good, preferably the food in Chinatown. Old Wong, I'm here, give me the things. The chubby Wuxen monk, Lao Wong, walked out of his incense and candle shop and showed a strange expression when he saw Roger. Hey, you are still alive. What's your expression? You wish I was dead so you could swallow my food. Stop talking nonsense and hand over your food quickly. I'm in a hurry to eat. Oh, that's right, you have so many tricks up your sleeve, how can you die so easily? Wuxen monk Lao Wong leisurely took out a folder, which was part of the runes of Kamatage that Roger had asked him to identify before. Roger went out resolutely after taking it. He hurried to eat and didn't notice the strange look in Monk Wuxen's eyes. In Chinatown, where people come and go, not only foreigners come here to try the novel Han cuisine, but also some tourists who come here out of curiosity to taste it. But they are destined to be disappointed, because the food here has been modified, and most of it has become a bit sour and sweet to cater to American tastes. But after living for a long time, of course there are channels that you are familiar with. The restaurant Roger went to is an old acquaintance, and you can ask the boss to restore the original flavor of the flower-growing delicacies. As for the reason, of course it's because of the extra money for lay people. With extra money, it's easier to talk about anything. I entered a medium-sized Chinese restaurant. The owner got his green card a few years ago. At first, he was making authentic flour-flavored dishes, but he couldn't find a market here. By chance, Roger came here for a meal. When he saw the boss looking sad, he told him the reason. Later, the boss changed the dishes to sweet and sour flavors to cater to Americans, and business slowly improved. Boss, as usual, bring me a table of food, not sour or sweet. Okay, please wait a moment. After a while, a table full of authentic flour-flavored dishes was served. Smelling the familiar smell, Roger opened his appetite to eat. If you usually eat too much, you will easily develop anorexia towards unpalatable food, unless you are extremely hungry. After staying in Eureka for a few days, eating and drinking well, I asked Roger to eat black bread, hamburgers and the like, but he really couldn't eat it. Luo, I haven't seen you for a long time. Where have you made a fortune lately? The boss was a fat man, already bald, and he handed over a cigarette with a smile. Hey, bad luck. I was caught by a group of nosy people. I was delayed for many days and lost all my hard-earned money. Ah, by the way, I don't have any money now. Let's keep it in the account and I'll give it to you next time. The fat boss waved his hand. It's okay, I'm here to treat you. No matter what the problem, it's all my fellow countrymen. If that doesn't work, just keep the account. I'll come over next time and give it together. After chatting with the boss for a few words, Roger walked out of the restaurant. Whoosh! Several bullets flew over quickly, aiming directly at Roger's head. Roger's sixth sense gave him a crazy warning, and he dodged the bullets in a thousandth of a second, and then the next moment. Puff! There was an explosion sound, and Roger's head was exploded like a watermelon. It turns out that the bullet actually turned a corner. Bah! After the bullet blew open Roger's head, there was a slight gunshot in the distance. It's done, you can go get the money. On a small building more than 600 meters away from Roger, a sloppy, homeless-looking man smiled with satisfaction. He quickly packed up the sniper rifle, put it in the box and quickly left the scene. Hiding in the crowd, someone had already recorded the scene from beginning to end. The person who recorded the video was obviously with the killer, and he quickly evacuated the scene. Soon, sirens sounded, and within a short while, police and ambulances arrived, and banners were pulled up at the scene. After taking photos and collecting evidence, Roger's body was carried into the car and sent to the morgue of the police station for further investigation or autopsy. After collecting the evidence, the police also began to go back to investigate Roger's connections and found that he was an orphan, usually living alone, but he had some connections with the police station in Queens. So he called over there to inquire, and George, who had recovered from his injuries, rushed over to see the situation. Oh, you said that Roger who was just delivered today is inside, cabinet number 14. Go in and take a look. Because he was a colleague, and the person who died was not a rich man or a military figure, the security guard guarding the morgue didn't care and waved his hand and passed. After George came in, he pulled out the refrigerator and saw Roger's body lying there quietly with a big hole in his head. The facial features in the front were all blurred, and the flesh and blood were all blurred. The bullet hit from the back and came out from the front. When it came out from the front, half of the head was blown into pieces. This is the power of the sniper rifle. Oh, Luo, you can go to heaven with peace of mind. I will help you find the murderer. George sighed and planned to push the cabinet back. And just when he was halfway pushing the cabinet back, a cold hand suddenly held his hand directly. It's a deal, but I think I can still save it a little bit. Circle dot operator hollow down pointing triangle circle dot operator. George was immediately frightened by the horrifying scene in front of him. A man with only half a head slowly sat up, turned to look at him, and smiled with only one chin and no upper jaw. Ah ah ah, George, who was extremely horrified, screamed like a girl, then broke away from the opponent's hand and jumped back like a cat. He took out his gun and aimed at the sitting body. Just about to open fire. Stop screaming, it's me, the corpse with half the head suddenly burst into flames. The minced meat was quickly turned into flames, and the broken head continued to grow new bones. In an instant, a skull appeared. The reorganization is complete. Are you, Luo? George, whose heart suddenly surged, covered his chest with a pale face and asked doubtfully. Nonsense, haven't you seen what I look like after I transform? Who else is there besides me? Roger rolled his eyes, which looked even more terrifying in the skull form. Hearing the familiar voice, George slowly lowered his heart rate. I said before that sooner or later I'll get a heart attack from you when I'm with you, and I'm right. George said angrily. You're not dead, so why were you sent to the morgue of the police station? You think I think so? Roger said angrily. I don't know which grandson would hit me with a sniper rifle in broad daylight. It's just a matter of hitting me, but the bullet can still turn. In broad daylight, a man with a crushed head suddenly got up. With so many people watching on the street, it would have become a headline, so I could only pretend to be dead and wait until no one was around to find a way to sneak out, otherwise. Boom. There was a heavy sound of falling to the ground, and George looked back. It turned out that the security guard who heard the scream came in to check the situation, but was frightened by Roger who came back from the dead. His eyes turned white and he fainted. Look, another one was scared to death. George quickly went over to check and found that the security guard had just fainted from fright, so he felt relieved. Then what are you going to do now? Me, Roger cursed angrily. Of course I will find the grandson who killed me and beat him back. I will give him back whatever he gives me. George thought for a moment, then nodded. I will also use my connections with the police to help you find out if you have offended anyone. You'd better not show up again these days. It's a trivial matter. Roger waved his hand, and the Ghost Rider state exited, and a complete human head returned to its original state, still as handsome as before. Then open the system a little bit, the character skin, and the black charcoal head will appear. The black charcoal head, which was so dark that his facial features could not be seen, opened a row of white teeth and smiled. How about it? My vest is pretty good, isn't it? Yes, at least hiding yourself is no longer a problem, but, George suddenly thought of a question. You have been shot in front of everyone, and your identity will definitely be marked as dead later. This is a bit troublesome. This is really a headache. Going to the Exorcist bar is okay, but going to Chinatown to eat at the boss's place will scare people to death. Forget it, just take it one step at a time. At worst, I'll spend some money on the black market to get an identity. Roger said, covering his head. Every year, there are many missing cases. In these cases, where the person is still alive and the body is not found, there is room for manipulation. If the missing person has no family members, then the person's identity can be used. It is sold internally by the FBI and is guaranteed to have no flaws. Of course, the price is very high. It is much easier to find a mixed-race yellow face like Roger than a white one. Of course, after selling, it does not mean that it is foolproof. If someone really tracks it down and goes to the place where the person was born and asks his acquaintances with photos, the secret will be exposed immediately. But there is no problem in normal use. At least it is relatively easy to use for passports, buying tickets, and other aspects of daily life. Is it really okay for you to say this in front of me, a policeman? George said quietly. Ha 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 ha, that's it. I'm leaving first. As for how this guy will talk about what he saw after he wakes up, I'll leave it to you. Roger turned over and jumped off the refrigerator, straightened his clothes and left. Before George had time to think of a reason, he couldn't see the other party. After leaving the door, Roger used some black magic to successfully climb over the wall and get out of the police station. After he came out, he realized that it was really inconvenient to have no transportation. Looks like I have to look for a new Wraith motorcycle. Reluctantly, he hailed a taxi from the side of the road. Brother, go to Brooklyn, 44th Street, Dad's bar. Okay, let's go now. The driver said happily. Sir, your voice sounds so familiar to me. Have we met somewhere? Huh, having said that, Roger took a look and found that the other person looked familiar indeed. By coincidence, wasn't this the Indian guy who was Jeremy? Oh, it's you. I remember you. I gave you a shovel last time. Is it okay to use it? Shovel. Brother Jeremy thought hard, but I can't remember a black man giving me a shovel. I do remember that an Asian gentleman gave me a shovel, and I beat him severely with it. That pair of gay men and women gave each other a slap in the face. Oh, yes, that person is me. I recently went to Africa and got this tan. Roger grinned. Oh, yes, I remember your teeth are very white. It's really pitiful that you have such a tan. Remember to bring sunscreen next time. The little brother Jeremy looked at Roger with a pitiful look. Black-headed. It's okay, it'll turn white in a few days. By the way, you just beat them up after you went up. I'm a loser, I don't dare to kill anyone. Woo-woo, Jeremy, the little brother, was asked by Roger, his eyes turned red, and he began to cry. That female cousin, who has been with me for so long, has never had a job. She eats what I have and spends what I have. The key is that she also gives the money to that man. I worked hard to drive a taxi, but I didn't save any money for 3 years. It turned out that all of it was used by her to support the pretty boy. Isn't she pretty? Roger patted his little brother Jeremy on the shoulder, not knowing how to comfort him. Very beautiful. Look, this is her photo. I am a loser. Even after we broke up, I still carry her photo with me. I can't forget her. Woo-woo. Roger took a look and saw that she was indeed beautiful, comparable to Bollywood actresses. No wonder little brother Jeremy was so obsessed with her. Ahem, brother, you can change your mind. She's so beautiful and can't compete with the second-tier stars in Hollywood. Think about who can sleep with a second-tier actress. And one night for someone else costs at least tens of thousands of dollars. You slept with her for 3 years in vain and didn't spend much money. Think about it, she will marry someone else in the future, and you slept with that man's wife for 3 years. Doesn't that feel like this? Much better. You were not cheated on, but instead cheated on another man for 3 years. The one who should be sad is the man who married her. Brother Jeremy opened his mouth wide and thought for a long time, not knowing how to express it. Sir, after hearing your words of comfort, I suddenly felt a sense of guilt. I'm sorry for the man who has never been masked and will become her husband in the future. Hey, how's it going? Do you feel better? From being cheated on to being cheated on someone else, your identity has suddenly changed. Roger smiled mischievously. Yeah, sir, you are really a master of psychology. You have suddenly solved the depression that has troubled me for so long. I am so grateful to you. The depressed expression on the face of the younger brother Jeremy no longer appears. Instead, it is an optimistic cheerfulness. It can only be said that you are born to be an optimist, and I am just the icing on the cake. Roger thought that even if no one enlightens him and believes that he can get out of the trough. By the way, do you want to go to that bar to drink? It's broad daylight, so it doesn't seem to be open yet. No, I'm going over there to get some information. Well, don't ask. It's not good for you to know too much. Oh, okay. The obedient little brother Jeremy stopped asking questions when he heard this. He turned on the radio and drove the car while listening. This morning's news from our station is that an Asian man was shot to death near a restaurant street in Chinatown when he went out. The perpetrator used a large caliber sniper rifle. The man's head was hit beyond recognition. The case is currently under investigation. Tisk, tisk, it's beyond recognition. I'm afraid it will explode like a watermelon. Roger sighed with emotion. This announcer was too unprofessional. Sir, how do you know? You couldn't be at the scene. Yes, I was the one whose head was blown off. Brother Jeremy. Now he no longer dared to chat casually. He was afraid that the customers behind him would surprise him, so he drove directly to the entrance of the bar and stopped the car. Ah, by the way, I don't have any money. If I can record it, I'll give it to you next time. Or you can give me a business card and I'll give you the money in 2 days. Brother Jeremy smiled and waved his hand. No, sir, you have relieved me of my depression for so many days. I'll pay you for the fare. Good guy. After repeatedly expressing his gratitude to his brother Jeremy, Roger entered the bar and came here to inquire, just because the owner of Dad's bar, Ray, was a local gangster here. After entering the bar, there were only a few people there. They were all still awake after drinking all night last night. Lei was quite energetic and was cleaning his wine glass at the bar. Bartending was his hobby. Lao Lei, as usual, have a cocktail, like the 3-color cup of milk tea. Sorry, our store hasn't opened yet, huh? Who are you? The bearded old Lei, who was still wiping the cup with his head down, suddenly looked up when he heard a familiar voice. R.O. What caught his eye was a black head, black from beginning to end. If it weren't for his row of white teeth, he would have been invisible at night. Hey, who else besides me? Roger chuckled. I came to ask you for some news. I know. Huh, you knew it before I even said it. Of course, the bearded old Lei pointed at the TV, which was playing a news about the morning's tragedy. The picture on the profile picture was Roger's driver's license, and it was stated that he had been shot in the head. Well, do you know who wants to kill me? This time it was the bearded old Lei's turn to be surprised. Huh? You don't know. Then how did you live for so long? Roger said depressedly. How can I say this? You are now on the black market with a bounty $1 million. Black market killers all over the world are looking for you. I feel incredible that you have not died for so long. Me, Roger pointed at himself, with a confused look on his face. Me million. That's right, how am I worth so much money? I'm not the illegitimate son of a billionaire. Haha, although you are not the illegitimate son of a billionaire, you killed his illegitimate son. It is normal for someone to pay million to kill you. The bearded old Lei continued gloating. It turns out that in the mission that Roger took on, the second-generation Lucas was not the nephew of a billionaire, but an illegitimate son. On the first day that Roger took over the mission, the target of his protection, Lucas, was brain dead. The next day, the clone seeking revenge on Roger arrived, and the bodyguards of the wealthy family suffered heavy casualties. On the third day, Lucas, who was already brain dead, died of serious injuries, and his body also died. The reason was that the battle between Roger and the clone the night before was affected, and his body was seriously injured. Although he was sent to the best hospital in time, he was rescued. One day is still dead. Have you heard of Paul Getty? The employer you accepted the assignment from is the Getty family. Paul Getty, the earliest billionaire, was the richest man in the world in the 60s. The reason why he is world famous is not his wealth, but his stinginess. He is so stingy that he is reluctant to pay even if his descendants are kidnapped. According to him, he has so many sons and grandsons, and if each of them pays, it will only attract more kidnappers in the future. That's true, but, in short, one of his grandsons was in a miserable state. After being kidnapped, the robbers bargained for a ransom that was reduced from 700 million to 290 million. In the end, he was unwilling to compromise even after his ears were cut off. After being kidnapped for more than a few months, the robber couldn't stand it anymore. He offered a huge discount on the ransom, but he was still only willing to pay 220 million, and asked his son to pay the remaining 70. Finally, he reluctantly agreed due to strong media public opinion. And after his death, the son who inherited his largest inheritance, who is now Getty's third son Gordon, hated his father's behavior, so he valued family ties very much. Now his only illegitimate son died because of you, he hates you with all his heart. You know, money is just a number to billionaires, and million is nothing in their eyes. In addition, he has been ill for a long time and is about to die. The bearded old Lei shrugged helplessly. You have offended a billionaire who is about to die. For him, instead of leaving his money to strange relatives, it is better to use it for revenge. That's unreasonable. His son obviously sought his own death. He used a black magic instrument, a scale, to kill his own soul. It's none of my business, Roger said angrily. His soul died long before his body died. If you can blame me, I won't bear the blame. The bearded old Lei continued nonchalantly. The other party knew you were an exorcist, so they paid an unprecedentedly high price. Now your life is very valuable. I suggest you run away quickly. Run away. Where can I go? The earth is so small. Go and plant flowers. Mau country, New Guinea, a sparsely populated place. I'll make sure you're fine. No, Roger chuckled. There is another way. Just kill the employer and the killer directly. You are crazy. The Getty family is a billionaire. If you kill him, you are going against the entire United States. Lao Lei rolled his eyes. What about the killer? By the way, do you know who the killer who killed me this morning was and where he was sent? The Continental Hotel is the most famous killer agency in America. They accepted the Getty family's commission. Continental Hotel, it's unreasonable that a mere killer organization dares to cross the border and come to the world of The Exorcist to kill people. I'm afraid I'm tired of living. Roger's cold eyes made the bearded old lay shiver. Ha ha, Continental Hotel, they don't know the consequences of crossing the line yet. The world of The Exorcist is not something that just a bunch of killers can participate in. You know, in this world, there is no question of whether you dare or not, only if you have enough money. Once you add more money, there will be no tasks that others dare not take on. Bearded Lao Lei shrugged. By the way, do you know where the Continental Hotel is? Tell me their location and I'll go meet them. Because we have known each other for many years, I will sell you information for free this time. You can teach the Continental Hotel a lesson, but I still recommend that you go and live in Asia. Getty II's million US dollars has flowed into the black market. Even if you demolish the Continental Hotel, nothing will change. The bearded man rummaged under the drawer, took out a piece of paper, and handed it to Roger. On it was written only the name and address of the hotel, and how many floors there were. Sorry, you know that exorcists and killers cross borders, so I really don't have much information about the Continental Hotel. I don't know how many masters are hidden in them. After all, if this can't be kept secret, this organization has been eradicated long ago. Quote. Click. There was a slight sound of a bullet being loaded. Although he tried his best to cover it up, Roger, who had a keen hearing, still noticed it. Looking back, I don't know when, several exorcists in the bar had woken up, and they were staring at Roger with intense eyes, as if they were looking at a pile of walking dollar bills. Before they could take action, the bearded old lay had already taken out a Winchester 1887 shotgun and fired several shots at the ceiling. Boom, 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 boom. No one dares to use force on my territory. If you don't believe it, you can try it. Get out of here, you fools. Several people looked at each other, and finally decided not to do anything here. The first one was Roger's charcoal-headed skin, which was so camouflaging that several people were not 100% sure. The second one is the bearded Lao Lei, who is a local gangster here. There are many people who are greedy for the million US dollars, but if you offend a local gangster, you may be killed before you get the money. The third thing is that they also knew the news in the morning, and they were still regretting that Roger died like this, and the million was gone. Now that the other person is alive and well, it proves that an exorcist who knows black magic is not so easy to kill. They not sure. That's right. The Getty family increased their money so much this time that even the arrogant exorcist was tempted. With the money, he would be comfortable for the rest of his life, even if he retired immediately and spent it until he died. Several people slowly walked out of the bar under the angry gaze of the bearded old lay and the threatening shotgun. These grandsons, thanks to me, I always invited them to drink when I was rich. Now they immediately turned against me when they heard that my head was so valuable. Don't talk about them, I'm already tempted. You hurry up and leave through the back door, otherwise I won't be able to catch you and exchange money for you. Million. The bearded old lay looked at Roger sadly. A pile of walking banknotes was placed in front of him, but he was an acquaintance and it was difficult to deal with it. This feeling was heart-wrenching. Hee, don't feel bad, I'll leave right now. Roger touched his head with a smile, walked to the back door sheepishly, and touched a bottle of wine on the bar. I didn't bring any money today. Keep it in mind and I'll pay you together next time. Boom. A glass smashed at Roger's feet. Get out of here, I feel uncomfortable when I see you. After Roger came out of the back door, the bearded old lay picked up the wine glass again and started scrubbing it, muttering to himself. Good guy, if Luo can survive this wave of pursuit, maybe you can invite him to go with you. Roger came out of the bar and found out who had plotted against him, so he came back to take revenge. He had been a low-key person in the past just to give face to Big Boss GU. Now that the big guys seem to be out of business, let's do something big and let the world know that the dual professions of exorcist and mage are not something that cross-border killers can join in blindly. I have to take a taxi again. I'm really not used to it. I have to buy one. Roger murmured to himself. Tonight, I will fight in Gundam form. The moon is dark and the wind is high, the sky is full of murder and arson. The brightly lit Continental Hotel is a 5-star hotel, but the occupancy rate here is extremely poor because the boss did not choose the location well. It is located in a remote area and has inconvenient transportation, and there are still some slums around it. It makes people wonder whether the owner of this hotel will go bankrupt, but after several years, he still has not gone bankrupt. There are people staying in remote hotels from time to time. These people are the killers of the hotel. Most of them are vicious and have ferocious faces. There are so many fake and real killers. On the other hand, there are all kinds of people. In short, the people staying in the hotel basically look like ordinary people. But tonight, a black man walked into the hotel carrying a large package. When he entered the hotel, dozens of eyes secretly watched him, covertly and covertly. He Tantu walked to the front desk of the Continental Hotel and dropped the package directly. The guy in a suit at the front desk looked at him with a smile. "Hello sir, how can I help you?" "Exchange. Huh, what did you say? What do you want to exchange for?" He Tantu curled his lips and opened the package directly, revealing the body inside. "Stop pretending. Everyone knows, Roger, I'm here to exchange money for a head worth $1,000,000. The waiter winked at the person on the side, and the other person immediately understood that someone in the hotel was going to close the door. "I want cash, no problem," He Tantu said, dissatisfied. "Sorry sir, I'm afraid I can't give it to you, because first of all, you are not our registered killer, so you can't redeem it. Second, according to our intelligence, someone has already killed him in the morning, and you just entered the police station and stole the body." The waiter still explained politely, "Of course, we can pay you about yuan for bringing the body here." He forgot about this incident. He was killed in the morning, but this didn't bother him. He rolled his eyes and thought of a way. He moved his hands a few times, then lifted the body in the bag with his feet. The body immediately came to life and struggled a few times. "Ahem, I have to say that the other person was an exorcist and was not killed at all this morning. Look, he is still alive. Obviously, Charcoal Head is Roger, and the people on the ground are the projection spells he created. Not only the killers around the world are greedy for the money, but also the exorcists, and Roger is also greedy. As an exorcist without a diploma, lazy and unwilling to work, Roger said that the million was so delicious that he was moved. Therefore, before destroying the Continental Hotel, Roger took himself to redeem the bonus." The waiter quickly picked up the walkie-talkie and said something. After a while, two people ran over, checked Roger who was alive on the ground, and then lifted him up and walked inside. "Hey, what does this mean?" The person took it away. "When are you going to exchange the money for me?" "Sorry sir, we have to verify whether the other person's face has plastic surgery, as well as fingerprints and DNA. If it's true, you can get a bonus of about 50. 50. Haydn too looked at the other party in disbelief. This middleman was so bad that he didn't eat like this. He simply didn't even give himself soup. "Are you not mistaken? I will arrest someone and you will only give them 50. Sorry sir, you are not a registered member of our hotel, so you cannot get the full bonus." Roger was very angry at this scene. Although he planned to demolish the hotel, it seemed that the reputable killer organization had been blown away, but the money was just not enough. 50. If you have the guts, just wait for me. He Tantu walked out of the hotel angrily. "Sir, wait a minute, our supervisor said that we can increase your bonus to 100 million. The waiter said hurriedly. He Tantu, who walked to the door, suddenly stopped and turned around with a dark face. "Give money." After a while, a man in a suit came over with a handbag. Haydn too picked up the bag and opened it, then sneered and looked at a middle-aged man in the hotel lobby. The man just nodded politely. Obviously, this was the manager or person in charge here, and the waiter at the front desk was just a younger brother. He Tantu walked up to the middle-aged man and said to him with an unhappy face, "You know, whoever makes me unhappy, I will make him unhappy." The middle-aged man was not afraid of the other party's threat at all. "Ha, 1 million is already a lot. Young people, you must learn to be content." He Tantu grinned, showing a row of white teeth. "It doesn't matter what you are content with. I just feel disgusted by black businessmen like you, so I decided to disgust you." The black charcoal hair was wiped on the face, and it instantly changed back to its original appearance, and a brand new Roger appeared. The middle-aged manager was so shocked by this scene that he stood up. How dare you show up at the hotel and defraud the Continental Hotel of its money? Roger smiled and said, "You disgust me. I won't retaliate if I go back and my thoughts are unclear, hee." Then he raised his hand and waved the beautiful sword they just gave him, but he got it in vain again. Then, in the eyes of the other party, who looked like he was planning to eat someone, he hid a large bag of banknotes behind his back and disappeared. Then Roger looked like he wanted to be beaten. "I'm just going to hack your money openly. Why don't you bite me? Who told you to hack my money first?" The middle-aged man was obviously angry at Roger's manipulation, but he slowly calmed down. "Mr. Roger, I hope you can cherish this last moment. Walking 100 meters outside the Continental Hotel is no longer a safe area. Haha, I also hope you can cherish this last moment. When I leave the Continental Hotel, this place will no longer be a safe area." Then Roger walked out of the hotel happily and said, "You dare to hack me for 100 million yuan. You can't bear the loss. I will hack you for million yuan. What's the matter?" When Roger took the first step out of the hotel, he noticed that there were more eyes lusting after his body. Maybe the Continental Hotel was a bit intimidating, and these people hiding in the dark did not dare to shoot. According to the rules of the Continental Hotel, anyone who fires a weapon within 50 meters is considered a provocation to the hotel and will be retaliated by the hotel. There is no safe zone beyond 100 meters, so when Roger walked less than 50 meters, a group of snipers were already ready to move, and the murderous intent rose into the sky. Then, Roger stood at the designated line of the Continental Hotel and retracted his foot that was about to step out. He looked provocatively at the killers around him and gritted his teeth in hatred at the hidden killers, but they were just minor characters and did not dare to challenge the rules set by the Continental Hotel. Then Roger stepped out and hung in the air, then retracted in an instant. "Hit me, idiot, I'm back again, what can you do to me?" Bah! Finally, a killer who was so offended that he couldn't hold it in any longer and fired in a rage. When the man hiding in the dark fired his first shot at Roger, the others couldn't hold it in any longer. God knows how much they would be able to share the million when the time came, and they started shooting one after another. When one after another bullets entered Roger's body immediately spurted out blazing fire. In an instant, the flames reached a height of hundreds of meters. Under the cover of the flames, a meteor giant suddenly appeared. I said, "Tonight, I will fight in Gundam form." "Oh my god, what is that?" "Jesus, a giant, that's a robot, how is that possible?" Under the watchful eyes of many killers, both overtly and secretly, a giant robot hundreds of meters high appeared. Evil Avenger. It was also a Gundam, and it was something that had never appeared in this world. At this time, Big Shit had not even developed a steel suit, and he was still a rich second generation just waiting to die. In fact, it's the same for everyone. You have everything you want, and you still work hard to do some brain-consuming things. It can only be said that without that encounter in the later period, Shit Dao Dao will never be able to display his talents. The giant robot was exuding blazing flames, shaking like an earthquake with every step it took. The Continental Hotel, which was close to floor, was just the same height in front of him. Some of the peripheral killers had fled long ago. This robot really made it difficult for people to think of confrontation. However, the people in the Continental Hotel were still making their final struggle, constantly taking out weapons to attack. Not to mention firearms, they wouldn't even be able to spark a spark when they hit Gundam. To Roger's surprise, the Continental Hotel actually brought out a lot of heavy weapons. Rockets were fired at the evil Avengers one after another, and a few came out with Gatlings and kept firing, but this was just in vain. Tanks and armored vehicles couldn't do anything to the Gundam, let alone rockets and Gatling. The two parties are not on the same level at all. When the evil Avenger walked to the door of the Continental Hotel, he actually just collapsed. The middle-aged man inside had already been stunned by the scene outside and was standing at the door with dull eyes. I said, "I hope you can cherish this last moment. When I walk out of the Continental Hotel, this place will no longer be a safe area." The evil Avenger spoke condescendingly to the middle-aged man. After saying a few words, the frequency of his voice directly shattered a lot of the glass in the hotel. Glass fragments fell from the sky and hit the middle-aged man directly in front of him. The world of exorcists is not something you scum can mix with. Remember. After saying that, the evil Avenger clasped his fists and smashed directly into the Continental Hotel. It felt like smashing a fortress made of sand on the beach. Looking at the solid steel and concrete building, it was completely vulnerable to the evil spirit Gundam. With one punch, several floors collapsed. After 2 punches, more than 10 floors collapsed. Finally, Roger punched more than 10 times, and the whole building had almost collapsed. He gave him a loving hug and lay down facing the hotel. It's like falling on the sand, and the people inside are not so beautiful. They are buried in the ruins along with the building like a landslide. Roger did not regret this, because there was no ordinary person in the whole building, and even the cleaning lady was a killer. From the observation of the Eye of Judgment, the whole hotel was simply smoky, black and smoking. The building was reduced to rubble before it even exploded and caught fire. The evil Avenger stood up, dusted himself off, and left, otherwise he would have to make headlines by grabbing shit. The limelight has never been Roger's hobby. Cough cough, cough cough. In the ruins, a middle-aged man miraculously survived. Perhaps he happened to be too close to the evil Avenger, so the debris falling from many buildings did not kill him. Remember, insignificant humans, the world of exorcists is beyond your reach. If you dare to disturb me in the future, I will uproot you. After saying that, the evil Avenger walked directly into the distance step by step, spanning more than 100 meters with each step, leaving behind a middle-aged man with dull eyes. The reason why he was left alive is because he learned from the information from the bearded old lay that the Continental Hotel is just a branch, and the other party has many killer hotels hidden all over the world. Roger had the biggest headache with this kind of chain organization. He had to travel all over the world to kill them, and then pull out carrots one by one. It was so tiring. Just kill the chickens to scare the monkeys and show the world your strength, and there will be no trouble in the future. Nuclear weapons can only have a deterrent effect when people know their true power. After Roger left, the media, which received information from the police informant, arrived belatedly. The first to arrive at the scene was the TV station's helicopter. On the helicopter, sitting a bearded man wearing a baseball cap, was the familiar reporter Dave. "Hello everyone, I'm a reporter from the Daily Bugle, Dave. Yes, I changed jobs. The boss couldn't bear to raise the salary, so I changed the boss. Now we are above the Continental Hotel. Oh my god, I just received a call saying that a giant is destroying this building called the Continental Hotel, but where is the giant robot? Only ruins were left at the scene, and the giant disappeared. Although we are not sure whether the giant destroyed the building, we can be sure that the building was indeed destroyed. Well, my boss James just called me and said that if someone captures the video, he can buy it at a high price. Okay, let's take a look at the scene next. Oh, there, where the photographer took the picture, there are huge footprints. Let's fly along the footprints and take a look. On the ground, there are huge footprints one after another heading into the distance, and each footprint is close to meters long. You can imagine how big the giant is. But because the Continental Hotel was no match at all, it was too weak. After Roger summoned the Gundam, Evil Avenger, he smashed the Continental Hotel to pieces in less than a minute. Then he retreated, so not to mention that someone happened to see it, even if he went to get the DV, Roger even retreated within 1 minute. Of course, there were some surveillance cameras that captured this scene, but not many. Because of the special nature of the Continental Hotel, they did not allow too many cameras around. The only cameras that can capture the evil spirit Gundam are the Continental Hotel's own cameras. In a villa that is half hanging on the edge of a cliff, billionaire Tony Shit is doing a magic experiment in the laboratory on the bottom floor of the villa. Tony has become a little interested in magic since the last time two strange things had a fight on top of his Stark Tower. Through Jarvis's powerful analysis and collection skills, he restored the magic circle that Roger painted that night. However, when activating it, a problem arose. No matter whether he used alternating current or direct current, he could not activate the magic circle. It was as if a certain medium was missing, which puzzled him. What is the problem? Where does it come from? Tony scratched his head with 2 dark circles under his eyes. During this period, he lost a lot of hair. Science is still easy. At least he has not been stumped by science and technology since he has grown so big. Question. Tony, who is mentally and physically exhausted, feels that magic is too difficult. "Sir, maybe you can take a look at this." Just when Tony, who had dark circles under his eyes, kept pulling his hair, Jarvis suddenly spoke. Tony was unaware of his talent. In an accident shortly after the birth of the internet, he actually created Jarvis. This was a product of chance and could not be copied. From then on, he had a smart housekeeper and network monitor, which saved him a lot of trouble. However, Jarvis was powerless without monitoring. Tony asked him to monitor news related to magical events and notify him as soon as possible if something happened. "Jarvis, what's going on? Don't bother me with small things. I'm having some inspiration." Even so, Tony stopped what he was doing, stretched, walked to the bar and picked up a glass, liquor. But he knew that Jarvis was absolutely loyal to his orders, and he must have discovered something before interrupting him. "Sir, according to the news just now, in a slum in New York, a place called the Continental Hotel, a robot with a height of hundreds of meters appeared." "Huh, a robot that's over 100 meters tall. Which company's product is it? Show me it quickly." Jarvis immediately released the videos and news it had hacked from the internet. Although it was intermittent, the connection was very clear. He is a giant about the same height as a hotel, and then he transforms into a demolition worker and demolishes the building. PFF'd, a mouthful of red wine spurted directly from his mouth. The whole body is wrapped in flames. "It looks like a technological product," Tony murmured to himself. "Sir, the other party disappeared mysteriously in the end. Because the location was quite confusing and there were very few cameras, we couldn't find out how the other party disappeared or where he went." Jarvis then circled the location where the evil spirit mecha finally disappeared. Tony was immediately interested. Such a tall robot seemed quite interesting, but if he developed it himself, he would definitely choose a small, close-fitting mecha. Because first of all, with such a large body, it is completely like a rake on a large-scale battlefield. Secondly, a large body requires a huge amount of energy. It is completely unrealistic to fly and it is not flexible to move. Is the other party using nuclear energy? No, flames are coming out from all parts of the body, gas. Natural gas. This design is obviously unscientific. The more Tony looked at it, the more weird he thought it was. How could anyone design a mecha like this? The whole body is on fire. Do you have so much energy that you can't use it up? Why not install a fire-breathing device in the joints and crevices of your body when you're full? Just to look good. Tony racked his brains and couldn't figure out the rationale for the other party's design. To say that it was a product of magic was an insult to his IQ. The huge body and sci-fi appearance, apart from the flames, reveal the crystallization of technology from beginning to end. "Jarvis, seal all the previous experimental data. We won't study the magic circle anymore. Let's replace it with this mecha. Go to hell with its magic. Go to hell with it, fake squid. Science is still interesting." The excited Tony, with his panda eyes, started to build mechas in advance, forgetting all the magic arrays he had studied for so many days. Magic was really too difficult for a scumbag like him. As for that strange mecha that suddenly appeared, Tony despised it extremely. How could it be designed like this? Apart from its appearance, the concept and practicality were completely bullshit. Well, magic is too difficult, but science is so exciting. After taking some money from the Continental Hotel, Roger happily ran to buy a brand new Harley-Davidson motorcycle, the same model as Arnold's. As for the car he borrowed from the group of young men who were eating chicken, it was long gone. In the slums, if you leave a good car on the roadside, it will be gone within a day, let alone other things. Moreover, cars have never been Roger's favorite, and he doesn't care if they are lost. Motorcycles that can blow up the streets are his favorite. After spending US dollars, I bought the latest and best Harley-Davidson motorcycle from an illegal smuggling shop in a black area, and drove it home happily. The reason why I don't go to a regular store to buy it is because of the trouble. The black stores are so good. You can pick them up in seconds when you have the money. Moreover, they are modified and have a nitrogen-accelerated fire-breathing device. This way, even if you are hit by the sun and unable to transform, you can still speed up easily. However, Roger didn't care. He believed that after demolishing the Continental Hotel last night, no one who was afraid of death would come to look for him. "I have to find something to look after my house." Roger touched his chin. His first choice for housekeeping was, of course, the legendary doll, the Angel Bell doll. This thing 007 doesn't have to pay a penny in salary, and any thief who breaks into the house will be killed by her. It is simply the best housekeeper with high quality and low price. For many people, Angie Bell is a very troublesome existence, because this thing belongs to the weird and regular existence. It has countless clones, existing all over the world. As long as someone believes in its existence, and then a strange coincidence, it is born. After killing it, it comes back to life a few months or years later. But for the Exorcist's extremely troublesome stuff, Roger likes it very much, because Angie Bell is so cute, a Luo Li housekeeper, free of charge, and the key is that she can't kill him. As long as it is tied up in the house and does not come out, it seems that it is not easy to create this thing. I have to find someone to ask where it can be found recently. I haven't been to the black market for a long time, let's go there and hunt for some treasures, Roger murmured to himself. There are two types of black markets, high level and low level. The Exorcist's black market, the high level black market is in the slit of the time and space dimension, and the people who participate in the transactions there are all powerful mages. Because there is no organizer to maintain order there, some are just the weak and the strong. There have even been cases where the entire black market has been taken over by powerful beings, and the gangsters have eaten the gangsters. But no matter how many times it is eliminated, this kind of black market will pop up again after a while, because there are many good things in hell. A lot of garbage that devils and demons cannot use are precious materials in the human world. From soil to plants to insects and animals, everything can be bought and sold. And if there is a sale, there will naturally be a buyer. In the human world, there are demons and things they want, such as souls, vitality and the like. It can be said that no one who goes to the black market in the dimension is a good person, but Roger is not planning to go to such a high-end black market, because at present he does not know the time and space magic, and it is unreliable to rely on props to escape when he encounters danger. What he was going to was the human black market in New York, which was hidden in the city. As the largest international metropolis, how could there be no black market? There is a black market in the sewers that extend underground in New York, and a transaction is held every month. If danger arises, the complicated sewers make it easy to escape. By the way, I sold Grandma Dryad to see if I can exchange it for something good. Why didn't I stay a few more days and scavenge for a few more meow hammers? In Roger's two-story dilapidated house, a meow hammer was placed on the ground, and the soil around the hammer was cut into a mound. Is it a sin to be too handsome? Roger pulled hard with both hands, using all his strength to hold back the breast until his face turned red and he couldn't pull it out. Even when the Ghost Rider's abilities were used, the hammer remained motionless and refused to acknowledge him as its master. Alas, he collapsed on the ground and took out a cigarette and took a puff. Seeing such a powerful weapon but not being able to use it for one's own use, one can imagine how depressed he felt. I racked my brain and couldn't figure out what I had done to make Meowthhammer dislike me so much that I even took over the task of helping children with their homework. Suddenly, I regretted not scavenging for other gadgets in the world at the end of time, such as energy weapons and other miscellaneous things that could be sold for money. Wait, there's another thing. Roger took out a palm-sized scale. This was taken directly from the second generation. It was a mysterious magic tool used by the ancient Egyptian pharaohs to exchange knowledge. I ran to my room excitedly, took out a DV, plugged it into my computer, and downloaded a few movies. Let's start the microphone connection. Boss, are you there? After concentrating and holding the scale in hand, after a while, there was a strange fluctuation on the scale. Want endless knowledge. Equivalent exchange. Hey, boss, it's me, the one who chatted with you last time. I brought you a movie, which is a specialty of our cultural knowledge. Do you like it or not? In the room, a golden scale appeared, glowing with golden light. This was in another dimension and could only be seen by the person holding the scale. Tell me the knowledge you want to change. Ahem, do you understand this hammer? I want to crack the magic runes on it and use it for myself. Roger pointed at the meow hammer in the room, then felt a mysterious energy fluctuation coming from the scales, and swept the hammer. Mjolnir, the treasure of Asgard, if you want it, the price is not small. Tell me about it, Roger didn't notice that the tone opposite Tian Ping was no longer so cold, but became like a person speaking. Mjolnir is made of the Asgardian metal material Uru and a dead neutron star, and its handle is made of branches of the world tree. Those who have not mastered its core magic runes, or whose soul imprint is not engraved in it, cannot use it, unless your strength can easily lift a dead neutron star. Roger rolled his eyes. Neutron stars are the densest stars besides black holes. They are born after a star evolves to the end and undergoes a supernova explosion due to gravitational collapse. Its density can be said to be extremely powerful. If I could lift it, it wouldn't be as strong as Jin Chao. With that kind of strength, why would I kneel down and lick this Miao hammer? There are more than 600 layers of magic runes on it. Each layer of runes is closely related and interlocking. Even if you destroy it, you will not be able to control its core authority. However, it is no problem to crack some magic runes and obtain the right to use them. Roger touched his chin. Junior authority. Like Thor, his father banned the use of the hammer at will. This is a bit low. Can you get a higher authority, such as one that allows me to control it and crush it? The second level of authority is of course the kind of Sister Gila who crushes her own weapons. The hammer itself has been imprinted with the soul and cannot be changed. If you plan to crack all its magic runes, it would be easier to create a new one. Understood. Let's start the transaction first, even with junior authority. Roger thought happily, if he really met Gila and Odin in the future, he would just kill them without taking out the hammer. Roger put his DV on one end of the scale. After a while, the DV player disappeared. A ball of golden light appeared on the other end of the scale. After he stretched out his hand, the light from it instantly flowed into Roger's body, and he could easily feel some of the knowledge about the runes. Hey, wait a minute, brother, boss, that's not right. Why are there only a few runes? This is completely impossible to break the hammer. Okay. Equivalent exchange. Roger understands and needs to pay more. Okay, let's continue trading next time. I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Anyway, there are many movies and animations in the world. I'll be happy to do business with the big guys next time. Roger, who was in a happy mood, planned to go to the bearded old Lay's bar to drink again, and also asked when the black market would start. Last time, my butler was cut off by those fools from the Time Management Bureau, and I don't know where they went, so I had to find a new one. Without a housekeeper, he can't sleep well. From time to time during the day and night, some people like to come into his house to buy things for $0, which is annoying. I drove my newly bought Harley to the familiar Dad's bar. This time I was very generous. I didn't even use the character's skin, I just showed up as my real body. Let's see who dares to be bold. Old Lay, let's have a cocktail, as usual. Roger walked to the bar boldly and skillfully took out 2 stacks of beautiful knives. This was his habit. In his previous life, he sadly saved money all his life, but he died without spending all the money. So in this life, he developed the habit of spending timely money. Money is a fool, you can't let it be used to you. Same as usual, I've covered the drinks in the bar, and today's drink is a treat. The bearded old Lay was stunned for a moment. Luo, how dare you show up with your true face? You are now walking with $100 million, have you forgotten? After finishing speaking, the bearded old black man motioned to Roger to look behind him. Roger turned around and saw, good guy, the eyes of everyone in the bar were focused on him, with a fiery look like they were looking at a fat sheep. There were even a few loading guns and bullets. When Roger saw this, he felt a little embarrassed. You must know that Roger is an acquaintance who often drinks and entertains guests in bars, but million. So fragrant. HMPH, a bunch of stinking birds have rotted eggs and sweet potatoes. They also want to take my head from my neck and seek death. Roger smiled coldly, took out his shotgun, and then enchanted it, and the whole gun burned with flames. I've demolished the Continental Hotel. I'm afraid of you scumbags. If you want to die, hurry up and don't delay my drinking. After hearing this, the people in the bar immediately made a noise and began to look at Roger with horrified eyes. The Continental Hotel made headlines today because it was turned into a pile of ruins. Although we don't know who did it, the gossip said it was a fire giant. All related live videos were confiscated by the mysterious department, but what they knew was that the Continental Hotel had lost money to Lau Lau's house. A 5-star hotel costs more than $1 million to build. This time, just to kill Roger, he lost several times. Even if he really killed him, he wouldn't be able to make up for it. The Getty family's bounty on Roger's head was not simply put into the account of the Continental Hotel, but put into a foundation and insurance was purchased. Only when it is confirmed that Roger is dead will the frozen huge sum of money be activated, and then the fund will determine the authenticity and then transfer it to the killer's account. The Continental Hotel is just the largest organization that has taken on this bounty mission, or the other party itself is the largest killer organization. But overnight, heavy losses occurred, and even the old nest was wiped out. That night, except for the killer outside, everyone living in the hotel was spared. It is said that the whole building collapsed in just 1 minute, and only one supervisor escaped, and he was spared. Hiss. Now everyone has woken up. The dare was wiped out by Roger, who had a bounty on his head. After hearing Roger's words and the shotgun revealed by his enchantment, which exuded a powerful and mysterious aura from time to time, everyone believed it. It seems that the $1 million for Roger's human form is not so easy to get. You have to measure whether your strength can destroy a Continental Hotel in 1 minute before taking action. Some of them couldn't hold it any longer and walked out in a daze. It was unclear whether they went to call someone after walking out of the bar, or whether they planned to ambush them. 2. A group of white-toothed wolves. Thanks to me, they often treat guests. They know that my head is worth a lot of money, so they turn their backs and refuse to recognize anyone. It's a shame that I still treat them frequently. If I invite them to drink again in the future, I will be their grandson. After finishing speaking, Roger seemed to realize that he had said something wrong and hurriedly took back the pile of banknotes on the table. I won't treat you to a drink. This is the money I paid for that day. I'll give it to you. From now on, even if I treat my children to drinks, I won't treat them either. They are a bunch of scum. After saying that, Roger angrily picked up the cocktail, drank half the glass, then took out a cigarette, lit one, took a deep breath, and exhaled the turbid air. The boss, the bearded old lay, took the cigarette handed over from Roger, lit it, and said quietly, "Do you think everyone is like you and can always get money? Most exorcists are only paid tens of thousands for each life and death battle. The unlucky ones are paid tens of thousands, but I encountered a big devil and lost my life. I dare say that even though you demolished the Continental Hotel and suppressed most of the killers, there are still some people who are not afraid of death and come to trouble you." Roger waved his hand. "It's okay. I have a lot of vests, which is not bad. It also reminds me that this world is not safe. To put it bluntly, it is not good to be too comfortable. After all, there is a purple sweet potato spirit in this world who will snap his fingers and have a few gun battles from time to time to remind him. Luo, next month, I have a commission here. If you have time then, you can join us." "Oh, what kind of commission?" Luo Jia took a sip of wine. "A commission that allows the agency boss to find someone in person is very rare. It's a secret for the time being. It's not good to leak the client's details in advance. You'll have time to talk about it later, because this commission is very special." "Oh, can't you reveal any details? Then you can always tell me what the reward is, let alone millions or tens of millions. If I take off my own head and exchange it for money, it will be higher than this." Chapter 91. I don't know. The bearded old lay took a puff of his cigarette. "I can only say that the income may be huge and will be consistent with it." "Okay, I just have a month's rest." Roger licked his mouth. He hadn't exercised in a long time. He wanted to exercise more during his break. "I would like to ask you when the recent exorcist black market transactions will begin." "Well, it seems to be happening these days." "Why, do you want to go?" "I'll call you and tell you the address then." "Okay, that's it. Drop drop drop." "Well, someone actually called me." Roger picked up the phone curiously. "You must know that he is an orphan. Basically, besides debt collectors, the people who call him are people who issue tasks." "Hey, Moxie, who is this?" Neon stayed for a while and made a slight slip of the tongue. "Hey, is it Brother Jia? I want to ask you for something." A childish voice came from the phone. "Hey, we're old acquaintances. Oh, it's you. What's your name? Little guy, are you asking me to do homework again? That's not good. If you keep cheating, you will become a scumbag when you go to college. No, it's another classmate of mine. He has something going on and needs your help. Quote. Quote. If word of mouth spreads, can customers introduce acquaintances to expand business? But it's okay, I can take care of the children's tasks myself. Only after accepting it can you have the money to buy a vest. There is no doubt about the importance of the vest. Okay, see you at the usual place. This time I'll treat you to a drink. Oh no, I'll treat you to a drink of Fagi water. After bidding farewell to the bearded old lay, Roger swaggered out of the bar. Looking at the hidden glances around him, Roger stretched out his middle finger, then swaggered onto his motorcycle and left. And those people were not sure whether Roger had demolished the Continental Hotel. Seeing him running around New York so lively, they were even more afraid to take action. After some contempt, Roger drove away on his Harley. After arriving at a familiar burger restaurant, he changed into a vest, in order to prevent his reward from harming his small customers. I walked to the cashier and ordered a few glasses of Happy Fat House water, as well as snacks such as hamburgers and fries, and then brought them to regular customer Jamie and sat down. Hey, no need to look, it's me, Brother Gia. The naughty boy Jamie was looking around. He looked around when he heard a familiar voice. He was stunned for a while and choked out a sentence. Brother Gia, why have you turned so dark? Did you go to Africa to sunbathe? Good boy, I don't even need to explain the vest thing, but there is another little boy with him, who must be the client introduced to him this time. As a mercenary and part-time exorcist, it's very logical to have several identities. If you look at the protagonists of espionage games in movies, they all have multiple identities. Roger smiled. Then he handed the Fagi water and snacks on the plate to the two of them, took a glass and started drinking. Well, it was so refreshing. The cold soda flowed into my stomach, and I shivered uncontrollably. This is my friend, John Hanna, who is also the client I introduced to you this time. Jamie pointed to the curious-looking kid next to him. He is my classmate and the person who issued this mission. Oh, Roger took a sip of the soda. No problem, John, right. Just call me Brother Gia like him. Is your family in trouble, or are you in trouble? The little boy John first looked at Roger curiously, and then when his companion nodded, he scratched his head and said sheepishly, well, I don't have much money, and I don't know how much it will cost to hire you to complete a task. Quote. Ha. Roger smiled. Brother Gia, it's not about money, it's about fate. 18,000 fate. Ah, the little boy John looked confused and didn't know what it meant. Idiot, what Brother Gia said is to use something with commemorative value as a reward, not money. Didn't I tell you before I came here? Jamie, a good friend on the side, couldn't help it anymore and directly interjected. Oh, that's it, let me show you first. After saying this, the little boy John took out the things in his school bag. Some collector's cards, toys, a mobile phone, and finally a signed photo of a basketball star. That's it, this can be used as a reward. Roger pointed to the signed photo. Obviously the little boy liked this photo very much, and it was related to his love of basketball, so the photo showed that the reward was gold. Tell me what's going on. Roger took the photo and stuffed it into his pocket under the little boy's reluctant eyes. The burger clerk in the distance originally planned to call the police when he saw Roger, a charcoal-haired man in a vest, sitting with two little boys. However, he saw the three of them chatting happily and taking out toys. Although this scene is a bit weird, there are so many people with childlike innocence. As long as they are not criminals, the clerk secretly put down his mobile phone. Roger didn't know it yet, but he was almost called the police by the clerk as a scammer. If he had known about it, he might not have needed the black vest in the future. It's like this. I am also a single-parent family, and my father is a reporter. Some time ago, he went to San Francisco to investigate some matters undercover, and then disappeared. Well, it's another tadpole's mission to find his father. Then the little boy took out something he found in his father's room. Roger picked it up and looked at it. Apparently, it was another case of smuggling over to work. The strange thing is that these smuggled workers were all sold without anyone noticing. By chance, a cleaner found a bunch of wild dogs rummaging through the soil in search of food in a wild field. After driving the wild dogs away, he discovered that they were a bunch of dead people. They were corpses that had been dead for many days and were rotting beyond recognition. With so many people dead, it was of course the most important thing to call the police. But here's the problem. After the local police compared all the missing people, they found that none of the bodies matched. There was only one truth, that is, these people were all immigrants. From the rotting corpses' clothing and body skeleton, as well as the comparison of missing persons in all surrounding cities, it can be determined that it is a foreign stowaway. But with so many people dead, it was of course impossible for it to be exposed, otherwise it would be a huge loss of face, so the local police blocked the news directly. Since there were no family members of the deceased, the matter was ignored, as if it did not exist. However, John's father knew about it. As a journalist who had always had firm beliefs, he was angry at the local police for covering up the news. At the same time, he was even more curious about who was killing these migrant workers. So after collecting a lot of information, I went to a local smuggler in San Francisco to investigate secretly. It was most correct to investigate directly from the source. The smuggler secretly helped smuggle so many people across the ocean to work. As long as we find out where he sent those people, the truth will be easy to find out. But people who do this kind of work are not kind people, so his father disappeared like this. He didn't know whether he was alive or dead, so he called the police, but half of such cross-city cases are handled by the FBI, because first of all, John called the police here, but the missing family members were over there in San Francisco. So according to the rules, the police station over there is responsible. It's impossible to cross the border and go to other people's territory to handle cases. You have to apply for it, and you need funds for business trips. There are many problems. And more importantly, the local police station has the power to refuse the FBI's request. In short, this kind of cross-city missing persons case is as troublesome as a mouthful of porridge, and the explanation is unclear. You are right to come to me. Obviously the police in San Francisco want to suppress these things, but your father just wants to open their wounds, so they are eager for something to happen to your father, and they are unable to do their job. It is normal not to save him. Roger used the evidence provided by the little boy John and the information collected by his father, and used his reasoning ability, which he had watched more than 1,000 episodes of Death, to deduce the reason at once. Of course, there is another reason, that is, his father may have secretly investigated the truth or obtained evidence, and then he was discovered by the smuggler and sank directly into the sea. Of course, you can't say this. It would hurt a child's heart too much. Oh, leave to find your dad tomorrow. Don't worry, he will be fine. By the way, leave me your phone number. Are you living alone now? Roger said. I live with my grandparents now. This is my home phone number. Just call this number when the time comes. The little boy John directly wrote a number on the note and handed it to Roger. Okay, that's it, you guys eat slowly, I'm leaving first. Roger picked up the Happy Fat Home water, drank it in a few sips, put the empty cup back, then stood up and walked out of the burger shop. After Roger left, the two little boys gathered together and whispered. I'm right. Brother Gia is a good man. He doesn't do things for money. Although it's a bit strange to ask for something with fate as a reward. The little boy John nodded. Well, I can see that Brother Gia is a good man. I hope he can find my father soon. Companion Jamie comforted him. Don't worry, your father will be fine. After Roger came out, he called the bearded old lay and asked where the nearest black market was. Because sewers extend in all directions, there will be some gangsters from time to time. So it will be held regularly, but the location will change from time to time. This is also to avoid trouble. There are also many homeless people living in the sewers of New York. After finding out the location, we prepared for tonight's transaction. The first thing was of course to buy a gas mask. No matter how much we cleaned up the sewers, they still smelled bad. The second step is to buy a set of chemical protective clothing and oxygen bottles. Roger didn't want to be smelly, especially since there were small animals in the sewers from time to time. After buying the tools, I returned to my kennel, set an alarm clock and slept until night. When the time was up, I called Big Beard and asked him about the specific trading location, and then drove there on his Harley motorcycle. After arriving at the location, seeing no one around, I opened a manhole cover and got in. Finding the black market is also part of my ability. If you don't even have this ability, you should not participate, lest others take advantage of it and leave nothing but bones. Wearing a chemical protective suit and looking weird, he walked in the sewer and began to recite black magic spells. Holy Mother Earth, Mother of the upper realm, please guide me. Reveal the demon hiding here. After reciting the incantation, Roger knew where to go. The exorcist's black market was 100% full of dirty stuff. Which black wizard didn't carry 1 or 2 devils with him for self-defense? It is easiest and most effective to use spells to find evil spirits to find your way. Demons and devils are essentially creatures of the same dimension. The difference is nothing more than white people and Meiman. In many cases, the same spell is useful for both creatures. After walking in the dark underground passage with a flashlight for a long time, I arrived at my destination. I saw an underground space the size of 2 football fields, with all kinds of people gathering around to set up stalls. Everyone who entered had to pay some money as an entrance fee, which was not much per person. After entering, it was like a noisy vegetable market, with people bargaining and arguing. After a while, Roger found his target. A kawaii doll that is white and red in color is a very good-looking doll in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of an exorcist, it is an evil and ominous thing. This is it. Ahem, boss, how do you sell this? Roger asked. Angie Bell doll, I got this from an auction house with great difficulty. It can be exchanged for items or with money. The money is 1,000 million. A hoarse voice came from the mouth of the stall owner. The stall owners were dressed in black clothes and masks. Of course, everyone was roughly the same, but most of them wore chemical protective suits like Roger, which was worry-free and odor-proof. 1,000 million? Are you dreaming? Apart from buying it back to harm others, most people don't want it. It can neither be used as a casting material nor a help in fighting. Roger had a look of contempt on his face, and he was fooling Xiao Bai. Yes, as a product of ghost stories, the Angel Bell doll cannot be surrendered to become the master's helper, because this thing has no brain at all, neither fear nor thinking. It's similar to Bloody Mary, Ghost Bus and other weird stories. If you die, you will be resurrected after a while. Some people seal these things directly when they encounter them, while others directly grab them and sell them as goods, just like the person in front of them. Ah, how about it be cheaper, 900 million? 10,000. No, I spent a lot of effort to catch this, 800 million. 20,000. Not for sale. The man in black robe who set up the stall had a dark face and refused to trade directly. He was too bully. How could he bargain like this? It seemed that money was hard to come by, so he still had to use things in exchange. Roger took out the body of the Dryad Grandma and a black charcoal tree heart. Boss, look at this. The stall owner's eyes lit up. This thing was a good thing, and he hurriedly said, this is fine, let's change it. This time it was Roger's turn to refuse. No, your doll is not enough for my Thunderbolt. You have to pay more. If you exchange it for a useless doll, you will definitely suffer a loss. The stall owner is also a knowledgeable person and directly took out other things. What do you think of this? It's an aphrodisiac potion made from succubus saliva. It has no toxic or side effects. Just 1 drop will ensure that the couple's life will be like a fairy. You know, after saying this, the stall owner gave Roger an ambiguous look. All men understand. This thing of mine is the same thing as the lightning strike wood. The key is that this wood is also an evil tree demon, which is more valuable than the lightning strike wood. If it is not enough, you have to pay more. The stall owner thought for a while, then picked up a bottle of potion and said, how about this? The potion mixed with saffron, skunk skin, cabbage, and trillium can mask the smell of the human body so that vampires cannot smell it. No, it's useless to me. I'll burn vampires to death with just 1 mouthful of phlegm. Why do you want to cover yourself up? Roger shook his head and had to pay more. The stall owner looked at Roger suspiciously. He was so powerful, he was not bragging. You must know that vampires are very powerful dark creatures. After thinking about it, he changed it to another one. Holy water injection from the Jordan River. It's not enough. You have to pay more. The screaming beetle found in a Mivil village. I don't want this thing. It's useless except as an alarm clock. The stall owner gritted his teeth and took out a small box. The bullet fragments from the Pope's assassination, this is enough. Roger still shook his head. This thing is for weaklings to exorcise demons. It's useless for experts like me. It's useless. Let's get another one. What about this, the mist? It can create illusions and find the truth of the past. Roger picked it up and looked at it. It was indeed a good thing. It was similar to spiritualism, solving crimes or investigating cases. Where is the matching set? This thing has side effects. Don't think I don't know. It will make people lose themselves in the illusion forever. If they don't use the sobering medicine, they will die. The stall owner blinked. Oh, I haven't said it yet. Why are you so anxious? Here, this is the nectar of the Dinka god, the sobering potion of the mist. It's possible, but it's still not enough. Look at me, this black charcoal is so big. I can make several weapons. Roger said. The other party's things are valuable, but my charcoal is large and I can't measure it enough. It's a potion as big as my thumb. If I want to exchange it for my own charcoal, it's not enough, so I have to pay more. This is a skin care product extracted from the sea monster's tears. Women can keep their appearance youthful by applying a little bit on their face every day. Roger's eyes lit up. This is a good thing, a sharp tool for picking up girls. Okay, let's change it, the doll, the holy water potion, and this skin care product. The Pope's bullet fragments are also good things and can have a very powerful effect on dark creatures, but Roger still feels that they are useless. He is the nemesis of darkness, so what does he want from the Pope's stuff? After the transaction was completed, Roger nodded with satisfaction, and then went shopping to buy some medicine to treat injuries. Although he couldn't use it himself, he couldn't guarantee that others would use it. Finally, he slowly walked out of the black market, swaggering as if he was waiting for some desperate sheep to come and rob him. After walking for a while, I cursed my bad luck, but no fat sheep followed me. There are so few people engaged in robbery these days. At this moment, a faint sound of begging for mercy suddenly came from the front, which was quite familiar. Don't shoot, please, I'm just a nobody, just treat me like a fart. Hand over the stuff, the doll that was taken from us that day, and don't act stupid. Black eats black. Roger got excited when he heard this sound. Could he be a yellow bird today? Hurry up and see the excitement. When I reached a corner, I poked my head out and took a look. Under the weak flashlight light, I saw a figure kneeling in the distance. Isn't that familiar voice the stall owner with whom I just traded? Turns out to be a weakling. Even with a gun on his knees, he seems to be a magic apprentice or something like that. The two men, one tall and one short, were pointing guns at the stall owner who had traded with Roger before. At this moment, the opponent's robe and mask fell off, revealing his true face. A wretched man with a deer-like head and rat-like eyes appeared in front of him, making others think of the word villain at a glance. Well, why do I feel that the scent of the souls of those two people is very familiar? Who is it? Unable to remember for a moment, Roger sniffed. Who is hiding there? Come out. One of the tall men noticed something keenly and shined his flashlight on Roger's hiding place. If you are discovered, forget it, just come out openly. Sparrows prey on mantises. There is no need to hide. The strength is there. It's him, he bought it. The doll is with him, you go find him. Roger, I'm wearing a chemical protective suit, how can you still recognize me? Sorry, sir, please hand over that doll. It is an evil thing and must be destroyed. The tall robber said to Roger. Sam. Roger finally knew where the familiar smell came from. Sam's soul was different from ordinary people, with a faint smell of sulfur. You know me. You? Sam looked confused. Roger simply took off the hood of the chemical protective suit and revealed his true face. Mr. Roger. Brother Jack. It's me. Why did you two become robbers on the black market? Roger asked curiously. The two of them also took off their masks and put down their guns. We are here for this guy. He stole a witchcraft doll from one of our exorcism missions. If the thing is not destroyed, it will only harm more people. After saying this, Sam looked at Wushan angrily. Male. Did you steal it? Roger looked up at the wretched man. It's nonsense. It's an ownerless thing. How can it be described as robbery? We were just exorcising the devil together. But I sealed the doll and took it away. They chased after me and forced me to destroy the doll. Can that thing be destroyed? It's all money, the wretched man said with heartache. Then, from the conversation between the two parties, Roger slowly understood the truth. The Wen brothers first analyzed the newspaper news, and then obtained the information to eliminate the evil spirits. Then, when they went through all the troubles to find the true form of the evil spirit and protect the mistress, this guy picked the peach from behind and took away the doll parasitized by the evil spirit first. Then the Wen brothers were too talkative, thinking that the other party was going to destroy the doll's true body, but the other party didn't say anything and planned to sell it for money. This thing has killed people, and you still plan to sell it for money. Uncle K couldn't bear it and his aunt couldn't bear it, so the Wen brothers chased him and beat him. Unexpectedly, the opponent's strength was low, but he was as slippery as a loach. After being escaped several times by the other party, I finally took the opportunity and caught him in the sewer. Now there was no place to run, but the other party said that he would sell it. What's your name, and who did you sell it to? Sam asked angrily. You must know that the product of this kind of weird story will not have wisdom and fear. No matter who is in the hands, it will only kill the owner when it comes out. Wouldn't it be harmful to others if it was sold? My name is Benny Ipoli, I sold to, him. The man with a deer-headed and rat-like eyes pointed at Roger cautiously. Ahem, that doll was indeed sold to me. I just felt that it was not good to keep something like this that could harm others and myself, so I destroyed it. You can rest assured that it will never spread and cause harm to others. Roger Yi said eloquently. That's good. Dean and Sam breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, Dean looked at Penny suspiciously. This guy with a deer head and rat eyes looked too much like a bad guy. Then he said, if you have any other harmful things on you, take them out and let us see. Penny said with a sad face, gentlemen, I am really a good person, an exorcist, I'm just ugly. Don't rob me. My life is very difficult. I can't even eat before I come here to sell things. Stop talking nonsense. Good people won't sell evil dolls for money. Wouldn't that be harmful to others? Sam pointed his gun at the opponent's backpack. The wretched man Benny, who was about to cry without tears, had no choice but to put down his backpack and take out his belongings one by one. Well, did you sell my wood? Roger asked. Well, sell it and you'll make a profit. Benny suddenly realized something and immediately shut up. Sam rummaged on the ground, picked up a wooden man and said angrily, what is this? You still say you are a good person, another evil doll. That's Pinocchio, a weird puppet who won't hurt anyone. Penny quickly explained, but his wretched look made it hard for people to believe him. Therefore, when it comes to the importance of appearance, whether it is a villain or a decent character, those with good looks are always more popular. HMPH, Sam sneered. The puppet was full of evil feelings. He couldn't trust this wretched man at all. So he took out holy water and gasoline and planned to burn it. It really can't hurt people. This puppet is so weak that it can't hurt people at all. Benny was very anxious. This was all money, and it was all his money that was burned. Couldn't this group of self-proclaimed righteous people not be able to hurt people at all? Are you short of money? Ahem, leave it to me. If it's really harmful, I'll burn it when I get back. Roger took the puppet from Sam's hand with lightning speed, and put it behind his back with a whoosh. Sam opened his mouth, still holding the holy water in his hand, not knowing what to say. Here, this is a good thing, take it. Roger picked up a box from the ground and threw it to Dean. What is this? The bullet fragments from the Pope's assassination are extremely effective in exorcism. Is it really okay to take other people's things as a favor and give them to friends? Penny opened his mouth, wanting to say something. Look, you robbed their doll. Isn't it normal to use this as compensation for equal exchange? People should be content. If it were someone else, not to mention their property, their life would be gone. Thinking about it, the wretched man Benny shrank his head. If the property is gone, you can get it again. Saving your life is important. Okay, let's leave early. This sewer stinks. Staying here for a long time is not good for your nose. Let's go. You two boys, come to Brother Gia and I for a drink when you have time. Bye. After saying that, he waved his hands. Gone. The Wen brothers and the wretched wizard apprentice Penny who had just been robbed were left behind. Penny stared behind Roger as if to see where he had just placed the puppet. This wretched guy named Benny, as he said, is. He must have done a lot of deception and abduction. At least he is guilty in the Ghost Rider's sense of smell, but he is not as guilty as killing someone. After returning to the kennel, I took a nice bath, then opened the closet and put the doll in. I was delighted that now I had a housekeeper. When it was put in, the eyes of the Angel Bell doll moved, and a strange smile flashed across it. However, my kennel is engraved with magic runes, and there are no neighbors around, so I am not afraid that it will run out and harm others. Moreover, the doll has a special feature, that is, wherever the main body is, the evil spirits in the doll will generally not be too far away from the main body. As for this puppet, Roger picked it up and looked at it curiously. Why didn't it move? How can this thing kill people? Ling ling ling. Ling ling ling. Huh, is there a call? Roger picked up the phone and answered it. Hey, bearded old lay, what do you want from me? A bearded voice came from the phone. Luo, I have good news and bad news for you. I don't know which one you want to hear first. Roger rolled his eyes. I'm not going to be too pretentious. Let's give you some good news first to put an end to the shock. Haha, the good news is that the old immortal Getty 2 finally died last night. It is said that he was so angry that he couldn't kill you after spending million US dollars, came the big voice on the phone. The bearded old lay gloated. Oh, this is indeed good news. I don't have to worry about killing the old man. What about the bad news? The bad news is that the bounty on your head is still there, and now you are a walking $1 million. Congratulations. Puff. Roger almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. This is obviously bad news, but you still congratulate me. Haha, don't worry, I haven't finished yet. For million US dollars, you demolished a building worth hundreds of millions of dollars at the Continental Hotel. Now the whole underground world has spread, and you are known as the most powerful mercenary in New York, the Exorcist. Well, are you happy? Roger rolled his eyes. What's so fun about this? I don't make a living by taking on tasks. People are afraid of being famous and others are afraid of being like themselves. The more famous you are, the easier it is to cause trouble. Okay, it's okay. I'm going to bed. But Getty II's death is indeed good news. It's a pity that I couldn't bring him up to million. After hanging up the phone, he finally regained his happy mood. He must have killed the fat chicken in the Continental Hotel as an example, and there won't be so many weird killers coming to trouble him in the future. Although ordinary people can't kill themselves, or they can be resurrected with Ghost Rider if they die, it is still a problem after all. Sigh, I didn't expect that the cash withdrawal institution was so cautious and required an autopsy, otherwise my projection spell would be able to take out the million bounty on my head. It's really magical to take your own body to receive the award. With the Angie Bell doll as his butler, Roger slept extremely comfortably. Ghost Rider is a natural nemesis of such evil spirits, and the other party would not dare to attack him even if they sensed his aura. Anyway, he never had guests in his house, and those who came in were bought for 0 yuan, so if he died, he wouldn't be blamed. When Roger fell asleep, not only the Angie Bell doll opened its eyes, but also the puppet man opened his eyes and looked at the place where Roger slept with a strange look on his face. As soon as it was dawn, the next morning, when Roger was woken up by the alarm clock, he opened his eyes in a hazy state. I was immediately frightened and woke up. It turned out that the puppet I brought last night, Pinocchio, was struggling to carry a samurai sword in my collection, climbing on the bed, and even put a small stool on it. This is, want to kill yourself. After seeing himself awake, the puppet immediately lay on the ground motionless, as if it was just a wooden figure. You can't see me, you can't see me. Hey, you're still pretending to be dead. I just saw you moving. Get up, you idiot. Roger looked down upon him, picked up the puppet and shook it hard. In the end, the puppet remained motionless. The only difference was that its eyes became at circle shapes. Roger was happy. Yoshi, it's quite interesting, but it's a little too weak. If you weigh a samurai sword, you would have killed me with a fruit knife. Remember that next time. After that, he took off his pants, played the little Chiji a few times, changed his clothes, washed his face and brushed his teeth. Roger didn't forget that he was going to San Francisco today to help the child find his father. After Roger entered the bathroom, a look of anger appeared on the puppet's face. Roger, who was in a happy mood, drove on the road and called his internal friend George to get some information. This is how people in the police station can do things easily. After asking for some information about the incident in San Francisco, Roger was immediately not optimistic about the mission. As we all know, the gangsters were ruthless people, and the hope of his rescue target's survival was a bit slim. George, an internal acquaintance, had no documents, so he could not help across the city. He had to rely on Roger himself. The first person Roger targeted was the smuggler of a local gang. Get up, drink water if you need to, and hurry up if you need to go to the toilet. We are about to disembark. Kevin Jaw was cursing and kicking the stowaways in the cabin. These are his fellow villagers. He is a second-generation immigrant from the Golden Triangle area, and now he is working as a labor leader. It is a job of charging high intermediary fees from small countries in underdeveloped areas such as Southeast Asia and Asia, and then helping immigrants come to work. These small countries in underdeveloped areas have many poor people in the country, and many of them hope to go abroad to work, so that they can make a fortune and return home in rich clothes. However, the reality is not so beautiful. Although it is no longer the world of cannibalism in the 60s, the intermediary company will sign a high contract with you. In the contract, there will be various miscellaneous expenses, which add up to an astronomical figure. In other words, these migrant workers must work here for more than 2 years to pay off their debts. Only in the third year can you get your own salary. If you are lucky, you can go home with money after working for 4 or 5 years and become the migrant worker that everyone envies. If you are unlucky, after working for 4 or 5 years, the intermediary and the factory owner will find a group of fake police officers. Then your savings will be gone and you will be sent home. And Kevin Wong thought of a more profitable way. That night, a group of people who had traveled across the ocean and came to work with dreams were brought to a large warehouse by smugglers. Hey, why is there one more? Kevin Jaw counted carefully, and there was still one more. Did he count it wrong during the handover? Scratching his head, he thought about it for a long time and ignored it. One more is one more, wouldn't it be good to have more money? He directly ordered the translator on the side to tell them not to run around in Golden Triangle or Nanyang dialect, and then someone came to drag them to work in the afternoon. At the same time, they also took out a bunch of so-called contracts and asked everyone to sign one by one. Roger, who was hiding in the crowd, curled his lips and signed an employment contract. This deception is really comprehensive. How did Roger get in? Of course it's a vest. I picked up a vest at random and slipped in easily. A vest who looked to be in his 30s and who looked like a farmer in the countryside was freshly baked. After walking slowly over and signing his name, Roger rested in the warehouse with the others, waiting for the arrival of their respective bosses in the evening. Obviously, these people were gathered together in small groups. Roger was alone, with no fellow villagers and no one he knew. Just lie down on the ground and sleep. At night, Roger's group of more than 20 people were taken away by a truck. The truck was shaking, and all kinds of sour smells, including the smell of feet, were all mixed together. It tasted like eating laote and pickled cabbage beef noodles. Roger rolled his eyes, took out 2 wads of tissues and stuffed his nose. The car was wandering along the way, and it didn't feel like it was driving on a road, but rather like it was driving on some old and disrepaired road. After the bus stopped, some people began to shout in fear, because they were greeted by several heavily armed gunmen as they got off the bus. Now even the fools realized that something was wrong. The people who had smuggled themselves into the car to work were reluctant to get out of the car. Bah, you yellow monkeys, get out of the car quickly. I'll kill the last one. A tattooed black bald man with a ferocious face roared. Although the people present could not understand what he said, they still understood his body language and could only get out of the car one by one. It got even crazier after getting out of the car, because everyone would be tied up and taken inside. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you tying us up? A dark-skinned man who looked like a Malay yelled in panic. Boom, a bullet hit his feet, splashing a small amount of dirt. If you are not honest, I will kill you, the tattooed bald man said with a ferocious smile. After everyone was tied up, they were brought in one after another. Many people panicked and wanted to escape, but they did not dare to move because the other party was holding a gun. After opening the door, a pungent smell hit his face, and Roger seemed to know what it was. Is this the number of people this time? At this time, a female voice came. Then a plump middle-aged noble woman came out with a pretty face, but the respectful expressions of the people around her all revealed that she was the leader here. I'm sorry, ma'am. The smuggler said that the incident has caused a big fuss recently, so he is cracking down on migrant workers. There are only so many people left this time. Forget it, send it in. The middle-aged lady waved her hand impatiently. Yes, ma'am. After a large number of people were escorted in like prisoners, two men in white coats stood there coldly, looking at everyone with expressions on their faces like they were mice. A large number of people were very upset and pushed each other around. Finally, Roger, who had no clique, was pushed out by everyone. Wanama, Roger yelled, these idiots, I came in as an undercover, died before leaving the battle, making the hero burst into tears. Haha, it's him, bring him in. The two men in white coats sneered, but it was scary how they laughed. After being escorted into the operating room, Roger finally knew what to do. Beside the operating table, there was a worker who had just finished the operation. His eyes were bleeding and his mouth was wailing. This group of people want to blind the workers and then make them mute. It's said to be an operating room, but the dark red blood stains, the rusty metal bed, and the moldy corners. This group of people want to blind the workers and then make them mute. Roger knew who the woman outside Lenovo was, Hand Club. And she is the most vicious one, Mrs. Gao. This woman opened a chemical factory that specializes in making laundry detergent, and she also likes to make her workers blind and mute. In this way, even if her factory is raided by the FBI, no one can reveal secrets. But where do the workers come from? Roger understood in an instant that the workers were all immigrants from abroad who came to work illegally. As the economy of flower growers is getting better and better, there are basically no Chinese people smuggling across the border. Instead, the majority are people from small Southeast Asian countries. The smugglers pay high salaries to abduct people, and from time to time they release a few people who have made a fortune back to lure more locals to work here. Then, while earning agency fees, they sell the people to Mrs. Gao as workers. As for the cruel Mrs. Gao, after buying these people at a high price, of course she paid a high price only to engage in more profitable jobs. People would definitely not put them back after they were used, and they would just find a hole to bury them. However, after burying them too much, some clues were eventually discovered. A pit they specially used to bury corpses was discovered. Nah, where's Daredevil? Why haven't these people been eradicated yet? Hey, how come it's so fast? Lao He, who had a tattoo on his arm, looked surprised. He was done in less than 3 minutes after entering. Ahem. A man in a white coat stood directly at the door. Practice makes perfect, please escort 2 more people over. Lao He didn't suspect anything. He waved his hand and the 2 men walked into the crowd to catch people. The crowd struggled and screamed desperately. No one is a fool. Although they don't know what the people inside are doing, there will definitely be no good end if they go in, so they all start to get in each other, but they are all tied up and cannot escape. The last 2 thugs grabbed the 2 unlucky guys outside and walked inside. After a while, the white coat came out again and motioned to escort a few more people in. Where are the 2 brothers I just met? The tattooed black boss felt something was wrong and quickly grabbed the gun in his hand and asked. The white coat was stunned for a moment, then shouted inside, and the 2 men who had just entered came out. Boss, we're here. Oh, that's fine. Just take these 2 people in. Boss He completely let down his guard, and then started chatting with the people on the side. Those who were caught in the operating room would be imprisoned in the prison inside after the operation. If there is a wound infection or fever after a few days, take antipyretic medicine on the spot. Finally, if you are alive, you will be dragged out for training, and if you die, you will be buried in a pit. After training, you can start working. The so-called induction is a life-saving assembly line. The real life-saving is either to die of exhaustion on it, or not to death from exhaustion and sit on it until death. After an hour, Boss He finally noticed that something was wrong. He couldn't tell what it was specifically. It was just that kind of indescribable panic. This kind of panic was as if the police were checking their washing powder factory at any time. You two, come in with me and take a look. Boss Hay casually called two of his men and walked into the operating room. When I went in and took a look, I was immediately stunned. The workers were sitting on the side with their eyes wide open. There was no sign of surgery anywhere. "You, who are you?" The tattooed black boss panicked and picked up the gun and pointed at the white coat on the operating table. The two men also hurriedly picked up their guns, but the next second, the guns were pointed at Boss Hay. "Fark, are you crazy, pointing a gun at me?" The two men said with serious faces. "Sorry, we are undercovers, put down the guns." Quote ... question mark exclamation mark quote. With a look of disbelief on his face, Boss Hay slowly put down his gun, and was then swarmed up by two men and tied up. "Tell me the truth, where is Mrs. Gao's factory?" The white coat pulled off the mask, revealing Roger's appearance. It was so hot. "Where?" Boss Hay looked at the two traitor men with a confused look on his face, and suddenly realized, you two are pretenders. Obviously, his two men also knew the address, so Boss Hay said this. "Oh, they too also know. Then I don't need to keep you alive. Bye, go see God." After speaking, Roger picked up the gun, loaded the bullet, and was ready to shoot. "Hey, no, wait, I'll take you there. You can't save those people without my help." As a gang leader, being cruel to others doesn't mean that he won't be afraid of death. Roger waved his hands and released the spell, and all the innocent workers came in, so the remaining gunmen outside didn't have to act with them. I have used projection magic to deceive people so many times that I feel like I have lost a bit of value. After a ball of yellow light flashed, a projection clone exactly like Boss Hay came out. "Hey, you go and kill everyone one by one. Okay, after 10 years of undercover service, the day for promotion and salary increase is now. I want to go undercover and become the boss, and none of you can rob me." Roger covered his face. The projection was fine, but his personality was a little too random. Boss Hay had an expression of disbelief on his face. He finally knew what was going on. The other party turned out to be a wizard. After a while, the gunmen outside were gathered together by several projections, and then there was a burst of violent gunfire. The black boss turned pale, and he was finished as soon as the gunshot rang out. Even if the other party lets him go, Mrs. Gao will not let him go afterwards. "Let's go, take me to that factory. By the way, let me call Mrs. Gao and trick her into coming there." Roger kicked the black boss, and then walked out with his two men. When we walked outside, the floor of the warehouse hall was covered with blood, and more than a dozen gunmen were lying on the ground. "Tell me, what is your general process? Do you send these people over after the surgery?" "We usually send them in batches. Mrs. Gao has several factories that need manpower, and these people will be sent to different factories." Many. A truck is heading to Mrs. Gao's chemical processing plant. During World War II, this country's external output reached its peak. With the end of World War II and the entry into the Great Depression, many factories, large and small, that had lost money were deserted and deserted. There are still many factory buildings left in the place. There are no ghosts in these places, and Mrs. Gao chose these abandoned factories to process her laundry supplies. Even though these abandoned factories look like dilapidated buildings, they were built during World War II and are still sturdy in terms of sturdiness. The electricity problem is easy to solve, just transport a generator. As for whether the workers slept well or were sick, Mrs. Gao didn't care at all. The guarding gunman was very cautious and hid in the dark. He didn't feel relieved until the people in the car got off, because the people who got off were all his own people. Several of them are Mrs. Gao's subordinates, so of course they know each other. A big black man was about to go up and say hello, but unexpectedly the other party picked up a gun and pointed it at him. Boom! The black man fell to the ground and looked at the other person in disbelief. He really couldn't figure out why he should attack him. Enemy attack. Several gunmen finally woke up and picked up their guns and started to fight back, but it was too late. They had already lost the first blow and were shot to death on the ground. Yes, these people are all Roger's projection spells, and the projection spells exchanged with Old Loki are extremely useful. Similar to the Shadow Clone Plus transformation technique, more importantly, even if you are injured, you will not immediately turn into a ball of smoke and dissipate. "Oh, I'm hurt," a projection clone lay slumped on the ground and wailed. "Ignore this idiot, everyone rush in and kill. Let's go." Good luck. Let's eat something tonight. The remaining projections excitedly picked up their guns and rushed inside. Roger, who was walking outside, chanted a spell and created several projection clones again, then picked up the guns on the ground and rushed in. People inside listen and surrender quickly. Outside are all Azu. If you don't surrender, you will become Brother Long. By the time Roger walked into the dilapidated factory building, the fighting inside was over. Most of Mrs. Gao's men were dead, and there were still a bunch of workers left on the scene. Looking at these disabled people huddled in the corner and shivering, Roger couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Most of these people are from small countries in Southeast Asia, and a few are Latin and Mexican. They were all sold here after dreaming of smuggling over to work. The work here is real, but it is a death assembly line, and people are also made disabled. In order not to leak the secret even if they are found out, Mrs. Gao made all the workers blind and mute. Azu, head, we found a person who may be the mission target. One of the projection clones came out escorting a blonde white man. Roger went over to take a look and saw that the other party had not been made mute, but blind. He probably felt that he needed to be managed by one person, and the arrests had been strict recently, so he simply brought him to work. Anyway, he was not afraid of being blinded. The other party ran away. Thank you. My name is John Hanna. I am a reporter. Frankly speaking, I thought I was dead this time. You're welcome. As long as you stay alive, my mission is complete. Roger said. It is not surprising in this country that father and son share the same name. This is true for many people. For example, the actor of Iron Man has the same name as his father. Next, the other party told Roger about his experience. Just as he originally thought, the other party found out the truth about this comprehensive human trafficking like a detective, and then he was targeted, blinded and brought here. This organization is called the Hand. It seems that the leader is a woman. After I was blinded, my hearing was very sensitive. Then when they came to pick up goods, I heard a woman's voice. John Hanna said. I understand. She has a processing factory here in San Francisco. This is the phone number found on the robber. You call your child first to report that he is safe. I will demolish her factory and come to find you. The Hand Club thing comes from the memory of the past life, but Roger doesn't know the specific situation. After all, he doesn't buy laundry. He stays at home every day. In addition to exercising, he only goes to node tasks to make money when he has no money. After all, he is not Spider-Man, who stays up every night and goes out to play on the swings, and he is not Daredevil, who likes to do justice. There were so many gangsters in the world that he didn't bother to deal with them unless they offended him. However, this time Mrs. Gao was so mean that Roger felt like he was standing by and watching. Less than 37 meters away from the abandoned 1000th Street in San Francisco, there is an abandoned industrial area, where more or less gunmen are ambushing at the door. When Roger kicked up a factory, the people inside who were still alive spread the news, so the people here knew that someone was going to cause trouble for them. Mrs. Gao was so furious that she directly ordered her subordinates to bring out all kinds of weapons. Even the FBI would suffer a big loss when they came. Because they were given to filial piety, and they took the money but did not do anything, so they were in trouble wherever they went. Due to limited intelligence, those people called Mrs. Gao before they died. They only heard continuous gunshots and did not know which group they were. Mrs. Gao mistook the attackers for the FBI, and this is how a beautiful misunderstanding began. No, that's not my person. I warned you that the limelight is very tight now. Stop your chemical factory. If you don't listen, okay, I can only tell you so much. There is a risk that my phone will be monitored. Don't call me if you have nothing to do. Then the phone hung up, and a beeping sound came from the other side. Asshole, you still dare to hang up on me. Without my money, how can you become an FBI executive? Mrs. Gao crushed the phone in her hand and threw it to the ground angrily. Don't think it's easy to mix black. Why don't you try to open up the joints? Most of the money she earned went into Umbrella's pocket, including the CIA, FBI, local police department, and some congressmen. Only by opening up every joint can she be able to do so much, because some departments are really not vegetarian. She was inexplicably kicked out of a factory, and she felt extremely distressed. The shipments were reduced by half, which meant that his income was reduced by half. Let me see who is so bold as to touch my things, hum. Mrs. Gao knocked her cane on the ground, and several cracks appeared on the ground instantly. The surrounding subordinates looked at their boss with fearful expressions. This was the reason why Mrs. Gao led many ferocious subordinates in a female body. She was not an ordinary person. A car stopped at the door of the factory, and then a man with blood on his body stumbled down and walked towards Mrs. Gao. He raised his hands and shouted as he walked. Don't shoot, it's me. The person who got out of the car turned out to be the tattooed black boss of the factory that Roger kicked out. Mrs. Gao waved her hand to signal for people to come over. She waited until the black leader stumbled to Mrs. Gao before she asked. Tell me, what's going on? Who is the enemy? I didn't tell you why. Be careful, your life is in danger, huh? The little black leader had a mournful face. Madam, I. Before she finished speaking, an inexplicable panic came over her. Madame Gao's expression suddenly changed. She raised her foot and kicked the black leader away into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Several extremely huge explosions came from the body of the little boss. There were several bundles of TNT hidden in his body, and the explosion was extremely powerful. The gunmen who were ambushed in the factory were instantly blown to pieces. Some of them were lucky enough to have their ears bleed from the shock, while the unlucky ones were closer to the bomb and were killed directly. Mrs. Gao threw aside the man who had turned into a corpse in front of her, and said angrily, "Huh! You actually used such a dirty trick. Get out of here, you fool." At this time, the projection clones, which had been hidden for a long time, started their own performance. People in front, listen, you have been surrounded by Azuga Longi's army. Hurry up and surrender. Ah, who will hit me? Idiot, what nonsense are you talking about? Send these scum directly to God. One of the projection clones patted the head of the sand sculpture on the side with a speechless face. Kill, good luck. How much are you going to eat tonight? Azu, who approached hundreds of people with various faces, instantly formed an army and rushed in. Suddenly, intensive gunfire began in the factory. Some simply picked up a bench and rushed forward because they didn't have enough guns. These are all projection clones created by Roger. Now he is getting more and more skilled, and he wants to kick Mrs. Gao's factory. Then do some body art first, and then rush in, and be careful to use the Wanian ship, although it will not. What do you think they can do to you? Aaron picked up the bench and knocked down a stunned leader. He instantly opened fire on his head, then picked up the opponent's gun and eliminated several gunmen with a few blasts. Just as Roger's Azu Along army was suppressing the surrounding gunmen and fighting, a shadow passed through the crowd at a very fast speed. It was Mrs. Gao. When she passed by a projection clone of Azu quickly, she slapped a palm and killed Azu instantly. Then he quickly passed by the other person and raised his palm. Brother Long quickly raised the bench to block it in front, but Mrs. Gao's palm directly broke the bench into pieces and killed Brother Long by the way. The second projected clone, Pawn. Then the second, the third, the fourth. The gunmen lying on the ground also began to recover and began to fight back. In an instant, the projection clones suffered heavy casualties. It's amazing. This old woman has some skills and can actually kill so many of my clones. Roger murmured to himself while holding a telescope outside the factory. You must know that these clones, except that they are not imbued with too much mana and can use black magic, have no difference in skills from their original bodies. Although Roger's skills are terrible, he also has the physical qualities of a special soldier. But he was beaten to death by Mrs. Gao with a random slap. At this moment, Mrs. Gao seemed to have noticed something, and looked at where Roger was hiding, locking eyes on him with murderous intent. Then, Mrs. Gao flew towards Roger at a speed that was almost invisible. Washout, is this old woman Usain Bolt? So fast. Roger was startled. This speed is good. If he participates in the Olympics, he can directly steal Usain Bolt's record. Madame Gao quickly came to Roger like a phantom, and then slapped him away. Old woman, what age are you still using your bare hands? Do you think I'm a fool? Roger rolled his eyes, took out an 1887 Arnold Special shotgun from behind, and shot Mrs. Gao. Mrs. Gao's face changed. The opponent's operation was like magic. He suddenly pulled out a gun after being so close. And it was not a relatively powerful pistol, but a shotgun. The bullet caliber of that thing was the same as that of a baby's fist. It's the same size. Even if you use magic to protect your body, you won't be able to withstand a few hits. At the critical moment, Mrs. Gao fell backwards with her upper body, as if her waist was boneless, and her back was almost touching her legs. Roger was stunned for a moment. This old witch looked like a weak woman, but her body was so soft, but being in a daze was not Roger's habit. The second and third shots were fired directly at her lower body, and Mrs. Gao also dodged backflips with an unusual agility. Click. At the end of the fight, Roger's shotgun was out of bullets, and the other party heard it and came towards Roger at a ghostly speed. "You're dead." Mrs. Gao looked at Roger approaching quickly with a ferocious smile, while Roger once again took out a shotgun from behind. Ha! Mrs. Gao's pupils widened, and there was no hiding place for the shotgun anywhere on the other party's body. The thing was so long. It was too late, so she simply stopped hiding. In the blink of an eye, Mrs. Gao made a decision. Boom! There was a loud gunshot, and a fiery red bullet was fired from Roger's shotgun, spinning directly and hitting Mrs. Gao's body. The other party also quickly waved the crutch in his hand. Just when Roger was about to fire the second shot, he found that the front half of the shotgun in his hand was broken directly. Roger took a look at the other person's crutch and understood that it was a knife. "Haha, I won't let you have the chance to take out the gun again." Mrs. Gao appeared in front of Roger in an instant and stabbed Roger directly with her sword. Unable to escape, Roger had a thought. Although his physical fitness was good and comparable to that of a special soldier, in essence, he had never practiced martial arts for a day. Human time is limited. In addition to 8 hours of sleep and 3 hours of eating each morning, noon and evening, only 13 hours are left. While training the Ghost Rider, he is also practicing black magic. Demonic. However, the other party obviously specializes in one thing, which is martial arts. Whether it is agility, sixth sense dodge, or attack, they are all honed through hard work. Roger's skills are not enough for the other party. Madame Gao has lived for nearly 400 years. In terms of martial arts, she is at least a grandmaster. In terms of skill alone, 100 Roger is not enough for her to fight. However, Roger relies on martial arts to fight. Ah! Roger's pupils shrank suddenly, because Mrs. Gao's sword stabbed his heart. Roger looked in pain and grabbed Mrs. Gao's hand with both hands. Mrs. Gao had a kind smile on her face, with blood splattered on her face, but in the eyes of ordinary people, she looked like a devil. "You laugh, I laugh too. Hello, old woman." Roger, whose face was deformed due to extreme pain, struggled to show a smile, because it was really painful to pierce the heart. "You know, today is cloudy and cloudy, there is no sun." Mrs. Gao. So, she soon knew the answer, as Roger's pupils began to burn and the skin of his body began to crack. Wisps of black smoke floated out from the cracked skin, and there was a faint light of flame in the cracks. Mrs. Gao's heart beat wildly, and her sixth sense, which had been alive for 400 years, told her that it was dangerous, extremely dangerous. But the sword was stuck tightly in Roger's body, while his hand was held tightly by the other party. Snapped. Mrs. Gao used her full strength and hit Roger on the chest with a palm. The huge palm force contained some weird energy. The huge energy directly shook the two people apart. After they separated, Mrs. Gao's face changed drastically, because she felt a severe burning pain in her hand. She looked up at Roger and saw that the other person's body had turned into a flame, but the flames did not completely burn the other person's clothes. Mrs. Gao lowered her head and looked at her hand. She had just hit the other person's chest and the flame stuck to the other person's body. At this moment, the flame continued to extend like a tarsal insect, extending from the palm to the elbow joint. Mrs. Gao gritted her teeth and cut off her hand with a sword, and the arm that fell to the ground was quickly burned to ashes. This is the domineering power of the evil spirit fire. Once a person without magic is attached to it, there is no way to get rid of it. Roger's heart was dented by the overbearing palm force of the other party. "Who are you, and why did you survive being hit by me?" Mrs. Gao shouted through gritted teeth. Roger is still in a semi-transformed state. There is still a head in his body that has not turned into a skull, but his body has been transformed. Because he was stabbed in the heart and there was nothing he could do. "I'm an avenger. You can call me Ghost Rider. I'm here to avenge the innocent people you harmed." Roger sniffed. The guilt value on Mrs. Gao's body was so thick that it was indescribable. This was alive. The 400-year-old witch has accumulated over time. One person's sins are worth the weight of an army. Harvesting her is simply a big help. Friend, if you want money, just ask. I can give it to you, 1,000 million, or 2,000 million. We don't need to fight to the death like this. You know, our hand is not that easy to mess with. Mrs. Gao guessed. He should be unbeatable and start talking in the background. Han Wei, of course, has 5 fingers. She also has 4 accomplices, who are also old monsters who have lived for a long time. Although the 5 people do all kinds of evil, they are very united. Once one of them is in trouble, the other 4 will help. The Hand, do you know the Avengers? That is our organization. One of your hands is not enough in front of our Avengers. Roger sneered and took out a samurai sword and enchanted it. This sword was something he scavenged from the end of time. Roger once suspected that it was vibranium or adamantium alloy because it was too hard. The enchanted katana directly added magic +1 damage. Mrs. Gao's expression changed. In her opinion, the opponent's martial arts skills were just scum. 100 swords were not enough for her to fight, but the flames wrapped around her body seemed to be black. Magic is very tricky. If it sticks even a little bit, it will be over. How do you fight this? Mrs. Gao, who was uncertain, made a decision, shouted loudly, swung her sword and hit Roger in front of him. There was an explosion in an instant, and the explosion kicked up a lot of dust. Ha, Qigong. No, it hurts your lungs. Old witch, don't run away. You have the guts to fight for rounds. Roger spat, and before the dust cleared, he felt the opponent running away. After living for 400 years, you can be so shameless and run away if you can't beat him. Where is your dignity as a generational hero? Don't want any more. Stop him. Mrs. Gao, who had lost one of her hands, shouted loudly. Several of her men took out RPGs and fired rockets directly at Roger. The ancestors under Roger had been almost wiped out. After all, they were just ordinary clone projections, without magic and insufficient firepower. After a while, they ran out of bullets and were suddenly shot by Mrs. Gao's men. I must buy an arsenal next time. Let's see if you grandsons can compete with me in terms of firepower. After several rounds of rocket launchers, one of them hit the target. After Roger was blown away, he spat out a mouthful of fire and cursed. Good brother, good cannon fodder, but I have always been fighting devils and never considered fighting against others, so except for 1 or 2 shotguns, I never prepared extra firearms, so I suffered a loss this time. I originally wanted to escape from the evil Avenger, but after thinking about it, I decided not to. That thing is too blue, and it's not worth using such a big guy just to fight some minions. Take out your unloaded shotgun and shoot directly at the opponent. If the bullets are flying, I will beat you. Ba 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 ba. After the bullet penetrated the opponent's body armor, it was reduced to ashes, and the person who was hit did not even have any clothes left. The gunmen began to panic and turned around to see their boss, only to find that Mrs. Gao had long since disappeared, leaving them as cannon fodder. Where is the boss? The boss is missing. Why did Mrs. Gao run away? The opponent is a wizard. Let's run quickly. Even the RPG can't kill him. In a panic, I don't know who said the last sentence. Even if the RPG couldn't kill him, it exploded. A large group of thugs in the factory stopped guarding and dispersed. Each goes his own way, wishing his parents had 2 more legs. But Roger was not in the mood to chase these miscellaneous soldiers. What he wanted to chase was the big fish. He ran quickly across the battlefield and came directly to the back of the factory, only to see a car roaring and driving away at high speed. Why did you run away like this? Phew, Roger whistled, and an evil motorcycle suddenly appeared, its 2 tires on fire. Just when he wanted to catch up, an evil spirit motorcycle appeared directly from Mrs. Gao's car. Big bang. Boom. The explosion overturned the car and spun at 360 degrees, then hit the ground heavily. What's the situation? Roger was stunned for a moment. Is there a third party involved? In the flames of the explosion, a person stumbled out of the car, still with fire on his body. It was Mrs. Gao. Roger turned over and rode the motorcycle, and just as he was about to run over and cut the old witch's leaks, a high-speed rotating extended bullet hit Mrs. Gao's head directly, causing a bloody splash. After that, Mrs. Gao fell to the ground and was not satisfied. The second, third, and nearly 10 bullets hit her in succession. After Mrs. Gao's heart and head were all blown out, the sound of the sniper rifle was faintly heard. Roger turned around and saw a man in black clothes flashing past on the roof of a factory building in the distance. Who is this? Apparently, the man in black first secretly planted a bomb under the car while Roger was fighting them in front. Then he hid from above and sniped. After Mrs. Gao drove away, she was blown up into the sky by him. The powerful bomb was not enough to kill her, so the man in black started to shoot again. Roger stopped chasing the black figure that flashed across the wall, but he was indignant at the other party's move to steal people's heads. Mrs. Gao is an old leek who has lived for 400 years, and she is a bad person at heart. You can imagine how fat she is. Then the other party harvested her like this. Really, Roger was so angry that he almost chased after her to argue with the man in black. But now is not the time to look for the man in black. There are still many people in the factory waiting for him to rescue. More importantly, there may be a large amount of inventory in this kind of laundry detergent factory, and there may be a lot of cash. Roger rushed in first. Entering the factory, it was no different from the one before, a moldy and humid environment, a group of hungry, skinny blind people, and they were also mute. Before coming to work, Mrs. Gao would make everyone drink some poisonous wine to ensure that they could not see or speak words to maintain confidentiality. Roger took a look and saw that these were from countries around Southeast Asia, and there might be a few missing people or homeless people, including white people. He went inside and searched, but he didn't find any money, but there was a lot of washing powder. Roger collected it conveniently, not to sell it, but because he couldn't keep it here and would throw it into the sea sometime. After thinking about it, I called John. Hey, I've already solved it here. Just bring the car over and I'll treat their injuries together. That's right, the client of this mission, John, has been cured by Roger. The method is the same as before, using a vest to summon an unknown existence, and then possessing him for treatment. Apart from anything else, those devils are very dedicated in treating their hosts. After all, not everyone is willing to invite a devil to take possession of them. Many conditions need to be met to be possessed by demons, but those who voluntarily invite them to possess the body do not have so many problems. Therefore, some injured and dying black magicians often choose to summon a possessed person. As for the problem that it is easy to invite gods and difficult to send away, everyone has. Why do you care about these things when you are dying? Come here and stand here. Roger drew a magic circle in the center of the factory and shouted to them. Ah, ah, he patted his head, forgetting that they couldn't see them anymore, and directly transformed into several projection clones to pull them over and place them in the middle of the magic circle. These people are probably numb. They do whatever others ask them to do, like a group of slaves. It is hard to imagine that these things still exist in this world. Roger didn't think he was a good person. At least for so many years in New York, he didn't care about the gangs because after a wave of gangsters were wiped out, another wave of people came to power after a while. This thing can't be destroyed completely, but Mrs. Gao's method really makes Roger uncomfortable, and he won't be able to think clearly unless he does something. Within the scope of your own ability, restore their light, at least these people will not be disabled for the rest of their lives. If you want to heal so many people, you have to get a higher-end vest. The devil will not look down on the inferior vest. After thinking about it, Roger pinched one, equipped it, and began to chant the spell. First, he knocked them all unconscious, then cut their wrists, recited a blood oath, and briefly bound them together. The next step is the important part: please be possessed by the devil. I, the great magician, Keanu Reeves. Listen to the call of waiting, the God of heaven. This curse is for us, we unite again. Kneel before the Lord and release the soul. Evolve, I summon you. Pazuzu, lend me your body and manifest your spirit. In the void, a black smoke invisible to the human eye appeared, and then began to pour into Roger's body. The pupils of Roger's eyes began to turn black, the whites of his eyes disappeared, and his eyes turned pitch black, which looked really scary. At this moment, the demon Pazuzu sensed that the host seemed to have many injuries, so he began to treat the host. The black mist enveloped Roger and then extended around the magic circle. The fainted blind people did not know that their disabilities and injuries were gradually recovering. This amount of magic power is not worth mentioning to the big devil, but the key point is that this is not hell. Long-distance transmission of energy consumes physical energy. Suddenly, a sentence popped into Roger's mind. Why is it not healed yet? It was the voice of the demon Pazuzu, Roger replied subconsciously. Come on, hold on a little longer. It's you, Jerry. Feeling numb, his bad-mouthed habit recurred. Roger wanted to slap himself, and quickly comforted him. Zero. Who is that? I am the great magician Keanu Reeves. You can't fool me, it must be you, even if you turn into ashes, I know you. It's not me, you're talking nonsense, my name is not Za Luo. How could such a handsome man be associated with the word Za Luo? Roger kept rolling his eyes. But the other party still interrupted the link. Not only was the black mist transmitting the treatment broken, but the clone that possessed Roger also came out of his body on its own initiative. You fool, I'm going to tear your soul apart. The black mist gathered together and then formed the shape of a devil, rushing towards Roger. Come on, your original body is just about the same. This clone is not enough to burn me with spit. Roger took out the shotgun from behind, directly enchanted it, and fired it at the black mist. Boom! A bullet with evil spirit fire hit Pazuzu and sent him directly back to hell. Ah, just remember, I will get your soul sooner or later, and I will come back. The smoke cleared and Pazuzu disappeared. It seems that I have to prepare a new sheep in the future. Roger had a headache. There are not many demons that can heal injuries. The key is that small ones are not effective, but big demons are. A certain big demon can directly cure people's cancer. You must know that ordinary demons treat trauma, but it directly cures cancer. Unfortunately, that big demon doesn't seem to be that easy to deceive. Although Pazuzu saw it through, the treatment was almost complete before the other party left. Basically, these people's eyes were cured. It doesn't matter if some of them can't speak. At least they can still work. After a while, the sound of a car appeared outside the factory, and in came John Hanna, the reporter who was arrested as a worker. Now the other person's eyes were brighter than ever. With a righteous heart, he went deep into the tiger's den to investigate. After being caught, his eyes were disabled, and then he experienced it on the death assembly line. I thought that Amitabha would be rescued, but I didn't expect that one day he would be cured. People who have experienced disaster will always have a profound enlightenment. Roger even felt that if he was given the Canadian's Green Lantern ring, maybe this kind of person would be stronger than the Canadian. I have contacted the reporters of our newspaper and reported the things here directly to the news. This time, I will no longer trust the police here, including the FBI, which is also unreliable. John said, there are bugs in these departments. If you go through them directly, the evidence may be withheld and the news suppressed. It's just that you healed the crippled eye. It's hard to explain. After all, magic is too. John said a little embarrassed, because the magic broadcast was too incredible after all. If the workers are all disabled. If it breaks out, it will definitely be international news and cause a sensation all over the world. It doesn't matter, I'll leave it to you. You are a reporter anyway. Remember not to include me in it. Just say whatever you want. Roger thought for a while and took out a pile of washing powder from Mrs. Gao's factory. After all, news must also have physical evidence as evidence, and you cannot just take it all away. I will continue to follow up on this matter later, and then find out the family members of the deceased, and also call on the society to donate to them. After all, sigh. John sighed and looked at the people lying on the ground who were still awake. Although the eyes of the workers were cured by Roger, the body exhausted by long years of hard work could not be replenished, and even those who died could not be resurrected. This is my phone number. Tell me your bank account number when you donate, and I will do my best. Roger handed over a business card. Of course he had no money, and he was not a billionaire. He couldn't give his cut off the head and exchange it for money. But there is a hand. Anyway, I have decided to destroy the hand. Then I will donate the black money they collect to them. I believe John can definitely handle this matter. No matter how good a person's acting skills are, his soul cannot lie to others. The evil value of his soul cannot deceive Roger, so John will not embezzle, and Roger has nothing to worry about. Mr. Luo, you are a great exorcist. John held Roger's hand with a moved expression. Not only did he heal his eyes, but he also offered to donate money. Finally, he hid his fame and fame to prevent his death from being reported. Credit. Ahem, Roger's face got a little hot when he said this. Is he really that great? Okay, if you have any questions, call me. I'll leave first, otherwise it won't be good to be on TV. By the way, if you find out about the hand, remember to tell me. Okay, I will also use the network of TV stations to find the hand. Speaking of the hand, John gritted his teeth with hatred. He could not forget the pain of being blinded. After bidding farewell to reporter John, Roger called his client, the elementary school monk, and told him that the mission was successfully completed and that his father was still alive. In the end, I gained another little fanboy, but the matter is not over yet. The hand club has not been solved yet. To do it, we need to do the whole set, and all the remaining 4 fingers must be chopped off. 3 days later, in the morgue, a dark figure sneaked into the freezer, found Mrs. Gao's cabinet, opened it, looked at it, and took her body away after confirming it. He was so unaware that the guards watching him were not aware of it at all, and then the black shadow skillfully avoided all surveillance and climbed out of the wall. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.